the ashes. The spirits light up the night, looking down the
Now, we're live from the Untold Radio Network. It's Untold Radio AM with MonsterQuest producer, host Doug Hajicek, and co-host Jeff Perrella Jr. Untold Radio AM is going live right now.
This show is for entertainment purposes only. Yep, that's the ticket. Now here are your Untold Radio AM hosts, Doug Hajicek and Jeff Perrella Jr.
Hello, everyone. What's that?
My notes gone.
Perfect. Perfect.
Welcome, Untoldians.
I like that.
Yeah, to Untold Radio AM, episode 259. And tonight, I think we got a great show planned, right?
Yeah,
Jeff?
absolutely.
Who do we have on? You know.
Mr. Joshua Cutchin. He's a great guest. Very
like
accomplished.
I like the way you say that. Cutchin.
Cutchin. That's how you say it, isn't it?
I guess. I don't know. Could be Cutchin
so.
or Guchin.
We'll find out. We'll get corrected if we're wrong.
Anyhow, yes, he's very, very accomplished, and we're going to go down a bunch of rabbit holes with him.
Mm-hmm.
And no matter what side of the argument you're on, I'm sure you'll find something for your
interesting guy
for your argument. Anyhow, we're going to do tech breakdown. We got a ton of clips. We are going to get to the clips this time. We're going to do them. We should do clips before we do anything. Let's do that.
Sure, we can do that.
We'll
before
do that
the news.
Yeah. All right. And then we have, again, tech breakdown.
Mm-hmm.
What else? I don't know. We got stuff. I do want to send prayers to our very own Aspasia, who is going into surgery tomorrow. She's taken ill. So prayers to her.
Yes.
And they run, her and her husband, Jamie, run the the podcast Down South Anomalies. God, that's a mouthful for me. Blah, 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 blah. I got to tune in here. But anyhow, so they're going to be missing for a little while, but then they'll be back. But she'll get her health back. But they would really appreciate a lot of prayers.
Absolutely.
What else we've got? We're going to play the Bigfoot New York Bigfoot Conference commercial a little bit.
Got a new one, yep.
Yeah, but tonight is going to be kind of a spooky, mellow show with the three of us tonight with Josh. And definitely tonight's the night you're going to want to turn your lights down low, get a snack, get a beverage, grab a blanket. I know there's going to be a little chill in the air tonight.
Yeah.
This Josh will make it a little chillier, I think. So it's going to be a good show. So grab some popcorn. Yeah, what else we got? That's probably about it. We didn't get to hang out this week, so we don't have any Jeff and Doug stories.
No, I've had a busy week.
I will tell you, I went by that one spot, and they were all out there with their cameras and their telephoto lenses again.
What the heck are they looking
at?
And
I slowed down, and I'm looking, and I don't see anything. I don't know what they're looking at. But whatever it is, it's attracting a lot of people. And of course, in my mind, I'm fantasizing, oh, what if they're watching a Bigfoot? I don't know.
Who knows?
It's gotta be
I can't figure that out.
I don't know. It's got to be a bird.
It's got to be a nest, like a rare nest or something that people are looking at. I can't imagine what else it would be.
Yeah, like a flamingo that got flown off course and was up here. I don't know,
man.
That's happened. We've actually had flamingos in Minneapolis.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yep. And speaking of Minneapolis, too, prayers go out to I'm sure everybody's aware of this terrible school shooting at this Christian school.
Horrible.
Just absolutely horrible. But prayers to all the families that suffered. It's just it's unthinkable. Yeah,
it is.
It literally chokes me up.
Yeah, it's awful.
Okay, shake that off. Let's go ahead and just do clips. It'll be fun.
Sure.
All right. And then after the clips play, Jeffrey,
Mhm.
let's play that New York Bigfoot conference commercial. I know you have
Sure.
queued up. All right. Anyhow, clip 1, the sound is good. Now, this is a demo of really weird acoustics, and I've got a few acoustical clips in here that are odd. But this one was discovered in this Aztec pyramid. Just go ahead and play it. Sounds good. Isn't that weird?
Very weird.
How they
It's
built.
almost like they know something that we don't.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. That's kind of what I was thinking. All right, clip 2. The sound is good. This is a mass, Northern Lights in Fairbanks, but it's really, really cool.
Awesome. I can't figure out which direction to put it. Wow.
Whoa.
That's a blast.
This is so cool.
That's just really wild.
That's amazing. Have
Yeah.
you seen Northern Lights like that?
Oh, God, yes. Up at
Yeah,
Snell,
It's incredible.
and up in the Arctic on a few occasions where it's just like it's coming out of your campfire and going straight up in the
I've
air
seen
like
it just like that. It was on the middle of a frozen lake with a new moon, no light pollution,
Yeah.
and the whole lake looked, the ice in the lake looked green like that. It was
God,
crazy.
So cool. Especially if you get a lot of reds in it and yellows.
beautiful.
Yeah, that's absolutely phenomenal. All right, clip 3. This is the sound is good. This is a massive EF3 tornado near Gary, South Dakota.
Oh my God. Wow.
Such amazing footage, and you just feel for the people that own that house.
I'd be nervous getting that close to it. Wow.
So that's good. Yeah,
Nature
it's
is not to be messed with.
No. Oh my goodness. All right, clip 5. The sound is good. This was posted by Sasquatch Theory on Facebook. And these are pretty impressive prints that they found that they, could be Bigfoot. But you guys, you decide. So just go ahead and look at the clip and then you decide what you think. There we go. The question is it a double step rare print, human, or Bigfoot?
Wow.
That's the question that many people ask when they find footprints in the mud. It's interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Clip 6. The sound is good. I hope this wasn't a new car. The elk did not give an F. Look at this.
That's a nice size elk too. They're big animals, man.
They don't normally do that. So
No,
it's
that's
kinda
odd.
Odd behavior. But ouch on the elk too. I bet that didn't feel good on his
Yeah.
horn.
Yeah, no kidding. That's crazy.
All right. And then we've got, let's see here. I got to get caught up.
Clip 7.
Okay. The sound is good on clip 7. These are really good, just amazing chicken facts. If you want to read those, Jeff.
They can distinguish 100
You
faces.
can pause it. Wouldn't pause it.
Okay. They can distinguish 100 faces. They can see more colors than humans. They make friends and grieve. They can taste salty but not sweet. They have dreams while they sleep. The oldest chicken in the world lived to be 16. There are more chickens on Earth than humans. They are the closest relative to the T-Rex. In the wild, they navigate by the sun. They cannot sweat, and they can run at 9 miles an hour.
There you go. Now, I had a naughty lunch. I had Cane's chicken today.
Yum.
And I do not need to know they dream while I'm eating this chicken. It's like, don't want to know. All right, clip 8. Sound is good. This is another chicken. It's a Polish bantam. Look at its feathers. Crazy. And I'm always attracted when I see this gray and white feather combination because that's what the Bigfoot looked like that me and Yvette saw walking along the road.
Really?
It had this black and white look, and every time I see a bird that reminds me of that, I just want to share it. So there we go. Yeah, it was incredible, Jeff. It was like dots, like white dots.
Yeah, that's a strange coloration.
Gray fur or hair, I guess. All right. Clip 10. The sound is good. This is
clip 9. You skipped clip 9.
yeah, clip 9. This is another chicken with definitely bouffant, married with children vibes, I guess.
Big Bundy.
Look at these things. I mean, they're beautiful. There you go. You should get some chickens, Jeff.
No thanks.
You got room?
Not really.
Yeah, you do. You got room.
Got room. No time.
No time, but you got room.
Yeah, maybe.
Just get just get 10 of them. All right.
Love it.
And this next one is also it's a wild chicken. Clip 10 sounds good. This is a sterling silver pheasant. Another absolutely beautiful bird. Isn't that great?
They're little dinosaurs. I always think about that now. That
Little dinosaurs, yeah.
we're looking at dinosaurs.
Yeah, they're the most closely related to Tyrannosaurus Rex. It's crazy. All right, clip 11. Sticking with the farm animal theme, this sweet, thoughtful little guy is living his best life. You got to watch this.
That's awesome.
He is definitely living his best life.
Oh, he is loving it. Happy little dude.
He's going around. He's kissing each animal. I bet you he won't miss his sister. What a sweetheart. Gosh.
Happy. You know what? Happy animals. That's good for everything. Keep them animals happy.
Hey, look at this. He's being led by the beast. And 2 dogs.
Oh, that's great. I love it.
Gosh, it's such a magical book. All right. That's magical.
I love it.
Yeah, I do too. I really like that. Made me smile. All right, clip 1 is about humming and what it does for you. And as you know, me and David Ellis have been, we talked probably twice in the last 2 days about humming and the humming reports that are coming in about Bigfoot and the recordings associated with rock throwing and all sorts of activities. But this is a clip about what humming does for you. Go ahead and play it.
If you hum, you can increase that to 15-fold. So humming, you're going to annoy everyone if you do this, increases that nitric oxide 15-fold. And there was one study that showed this guy completely got rid of his rhinitis just by humming for about 10 minutes 4 times a day. So these are simple tricks you can do. They are free, available for everyone. The humming also helps to calm the body down because we have the vagal nerve, right? Vagus nerve, vagal tone is right along here. So when you hum, you're sending signals to the vagus nerve and you're calming your body down. Humming is stimulating more nitric oxide and allowing it to break free from all of those tissues.
That's interesting.
Isn't that great? Yeah, and then we're finding out about other animals that hum and all the animals that do hum. Not that they've matched the Bigfoot humming, but even possums hum. It's interesting.
Yeah, vibrations and frequencies. I think we're going to find out that's the secret to a lot of stuff.
It could be. Yep. All right. Here's another nature sound. It's plant life. Go ahead and play clip 2.
They found out that birds twittering in the morning will help all plant life because they're giving off a frequency which the plants absorb, and it's a good frequency. The blossoms start opening up. All sorts of wonderful things happen to birds chirping. The rooster crowing the first thing in the morning. It's a wonderful thing. Nature will respond.
Yeah, I love it. I love this. I love bird sounds.
But who would have thought that they help? The studies have shown they help the flowers bloom. Birds singing.
I don't find that surprising at all.
It's not.
Everything makes sense. Everything fits together. Everything's got a reason and a purpose. There's just no question of that.
But you don't think about it until you hear it, and then when you hear it, you go, "That makes sense."
Yeah, 100%. Absolutely.
All right. Next one is a ladybug that follows a red line.
When I write with red ink on this paper, the ladybug follows it.
Wow.
Huh. Now, most likely it's because the ladybug is attracted to a pheromone in the ink. Huh.
I like how he goes,
It's following it.
huh.
That's interesting.
It's like he's just discovering.
Look at it. It's following the line. He's not interested unless it's making a mark.
Maybe he's invented a new sport, Jeff. Ladybug racing.
Ladybug racing.
Yeah.
They're really helpful little critters. They do a lot of good.
Slot car ladybugs.
That is interesting.
All right.
Look at that.
Slot car ladybugs.
Love it.
All right. Sounds okay in the next clip for this is a new type of weather vane for generating electricity. You know, most windmills are quite ugly.
Mm-hmm.
And this is one you can mount on your wall flat. Go ahead and play it. It's pretty interesting.
Capable of using wind from any direction, the final version of the O wind turbine may deliver the equivalent to a standard UK household yearly expense, according to the inventors, hoping to add these omnidirectional wind turbines to walls in big cities to use ground wind, envisioning a diameter of 2 meters.
That's pretty cool.
So there you go. That's not so obtrusive.
No, not at all.
I think those would look good on buildings.
Yeah.
I'll be mailing you one tomorrow to stick on your house.
They won't be killing birds and doing other kind of other stuff either.
Right. And I am going to mail you one tomorrow.
Thanks.
So you can put it on over your garage.
Oh, I love it.
Okay. Clip 5. It's just about how weird owls are.
Owls are some weird animals. First off, this is what they look like without feathers.
Yikes.
That doesn't even look like it's from Earth. That looks like a gremlin. On top of that, they also don't have eyeballs. They have what are called eye tubes. Like their eyes are literally tubes that run into the back of their head. You can actually see their eyes through their ears. That feels weird to say out loud. They can also fly completely silent. Not quiet, silent. And that's because they have sound-reducing serrated feathers and pockets in their wings that absorb the excess sound frequencies. Wow. That's how they're able to do things like this without getting spotted. They literally just come out at night and sneak up behind things that never see or hear them coming. That sounds really familiar.
That's cool.
Yeah, the eye tubes.
I didn't know that.
I didn't know that either. Okay,
good. I like learning new stuff.
Clip 6, the sound is good. This is about a skunk rescue.
Grab it. Yep. Come on, let's go. Yeah. He's
You gotta
holding
be a
it.
good Samaritan to rescue a skunk, right, Jeff?
Yeah.
He keeps trying. Eventually he gets it.
Yep. Come on, let's go. Yeah. He's holding it. He's holding it. Oh, hopefully he doesn't attack us. He's hungry. Here, Bay, he's hungry.
Okay.
That's pretty cool.
The skunk lived happily ever after. All right. Next one is about how strong gorillas are. Clip 7.
Yeah, give me 1 second.
I think the sound is good.
So apparently now some people think they could beat a gorilla one-on-one. Let me snap you out of that delusion. These guys get up to 6 feet tall and 500 pounds apiece. And according to scientists, they could bench press 10 times their body weight. That's 4,000 to 5,000 pounds. That's your car with you in it. On top of that, they also have a 1,300 pound bite force, which is twice the bite force of, I don't know, a lion. And they combine that with having 2-inch razor sharp canines. Those things would slice through your flesh like a hot knife through butter. Oh, and they can also throw a punch at over 2,000 pounds of pressure. That is a stronger punch than any human in history. If you think you could take one of these in a fight, your brain is malfunctioning.
I gotta agree with that. Same with chimps. Chimps are that strong too.
Yeah, could you imagine how strong a Bigfoot is?
Yeah.
I've experienced two things that just made no sense because like nothing could be that strong. What I witnessed, it was like it's impossible. I think we'll touch on that tonight with Joshua. Let's see here. Clip 8, just a dad joke. It's kind of funny.
8. You know what? I missed clip 8.
Well, you should be.
But I have clip 9.
That's fine. We'll just jump to clip 8.
To clip 9. I must have missed that somehow.
I bet.
Here we go.
All right.
1, 2.
This is weird.
What?
Yeah.
What? No. Trigger, where you going?
Are we sure that's real?
Yeah, watch. Oh, yeah, it is. Yeah, there's some people that can do this.
That's crazy.
What they do is they change their focus really quick.
That's
crazy. Go ahead and play it again.
Sure. Let's get that queued up again.
Pupil control.
1, 2. Do it. What the what? No. Trigger, where you going?
That's wild.
It is wild. Just practice it, Jeff. You can do it.
I'll work on that.
It could be your new trick. Your weird human trick. Oh yeah, clip 10, I thought. It's just so true. We've all experienced this. There's an outlet behind the couch. You're trying to get your cord in it. And no matter what you do, you swear to God it moves. Go ahead and try this.
Yep.
Somebody caught it on camera finally. Clever film.
Yeah, that's
that was clever.
That's happened to everyone. That's for sure.
That was a clever film. All right, clip 11. The sound is good. This is just a creative vehicle. This guy decided to drive his living room.
What do you got that on, man? That's on it's called a Zap Zebra chassis. It's these little 3-wheeled electric cars that they were importing years ago. No kidding. Yeah. Freaking love it. Thank you. Y'all gotta be having fun. Oh, we're having fun. That's awesome. Just cruising around in the living room doesn't get any better. You steer with that? Yeah, that's my steering wheel. No way. A little cafe table. That's great. Love it. Thank you, brother.
That looks fun.
Yeah. I don't want one, but excuse me. The next one is the world's biggest out of proportion exhaust. This thing's breathing easy. What do you think? Okay.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna put that on my Galaxy tomorrow. Order up one of those. Amazon has them.
We have another one that's gonna touch on the world's biggest exhaust, but it's instead of wide, it's long.
Bro, I don't know why they keep giving me tickets for this car, bro, and it's not even that loud. Look at it.
Yikes. That's a good comment. Yikes. So which one's better, the wide one or the long one?
Tie for neither.
Okay. Let's see here. The next one, clip 12A. The sound is good. This is the biggest crowded crowd ever at the Minnesota State. No thing.
Yeah, here's a resound of that.
This is the street.
No, thank you.
I have been there, like, when it's been that bad.
Yeah, me too. That's why I don't go anymore.
No,
thank you.
They have this event in the spring where they open up all of the food vendors, but there's no fare. And you can just go there, and it was awesome. It was just kind of empty, and I went there.
Yeah, that'd be all right.
That was great. I mean, it was that was super cool. Let's see here. What else?
12B.
12B. I'm like, I lost my place. Just like real life. I lost my way. I lost my place.
Let's just play it here.
You gotta see this. You think infrasound isn't powerful? There you go. All right, we get the idea. Holy moly!
I'll put that in the Galaxy too. Sure,
that is infrasound. There you go. People think the whole night's been about kind of frequency. Have you noticed?
Yeah, there's a theme there.
There's a theme. See? What else we have?
More.
We have only one more. One. Sound is good, and you thought your car was running bad.
Yeah, there's a slight miss. It's not running on all cylinders. Yikes. It's probably got a rod sticking out the side of the block.
All right.
No bueno.
Okay.
Cut. Oh man, that was bad. Those are the clips.
Those are the clips.
See, we did it.
The news, or should we do a tech breakdown?
We did the clips. Well, we can do the news real quick. What time is it? Yeah, we got time for the news.
News?
Okay. We're not much.
No. Here we go.
Untold Radio news that can be a bit weird is right now.
What I'm going to do is I'm just going to read the damn headline, couple of lines, and we're on to the next story.
Okay.
We're not going to dwell. No dwelling.
Okay.
Tonight, no dwelling. Thousands of bumblebee catfish were captured climbing a waterfall in a never-before-seen piece of footage. These are bumblebee catfish, and apparently they can climb out of the water. They
stick to rocks.
Yeah, they're 3.5 inches long. They're not very big. And it says scientists know nothing about this rare fish species, except they were caught scaling this 13-foot wall. So there you go.
Cool.
I'm gonna buy some and send them over to your house along with the chickens and the windmill.
So chickens get something to eat.
So they can climb up your wall.
Yeah.
All right. Next, Navy officer says underwater UFOs are legitimate threats. Keyword threats. The evidence is hard to ignore. So that's what's unique about, not that they're real, that they're threats. So I found that kind of an interesting take. Yeah. It says, are underwater UFOs legitimate threats? Hearst owned, it said in mid-2014 during training flights off the coast of Virginia Beach. He said a FA-18 pilot and U.S. Navy Lieutenant Ryan Graves began to notice strange things on the radar returns. So apparently there were phantom blips moving with unseen speeds and precision. said they dismissed it as a glitch, but then the anomalies kept returning. Anyhow, they said they were darting away at supersonic speeds, blah, blah, blah. And so he goes on talking about how these things are a very real big threat. And I mean, it's a long article, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And I can see why.
Yeah.
And I think they've fired on some of these things and it doesn't do anything, right?
Oh, excuse me.
Oh my God, I'm putting them to sleep. All right,
no, it's
next.
all on me. Next.
I like this one. Scientists say there is a anti-universe running backwards in time, and it's kind of what sounds natural, right? Because everything has an opposite, right and left. You know, if you got time going forward, there's got to be time going backwards, or the time. One thing couldn't exist without the other. So that's why it makes sense. How would you know what cold was if you never experienced hot?
Right.
It wouldn't exist. How would sharp? You wouldn't know what sharp was unless you felt dull, right? You need the contrast. So they're saying that there's evidence that there is a backward mirrored universe that could explain the existence of dark matter. If the anti-universe exists, it would run backwards in time before the Big Bang. It says dark matter then would be right-handed neutrinos. So there you go.
And from that, if you're
somewhere there's a Jeff Perrella walking backwards, returning the chicken I bought him.
Well, probably from their perspective, time's working the right way and we're backwards.
Well, that could be true, but
Who
if
knows?
time's going, do we walk backwards in the anti-universe?
I don't know.
I don't know either. Something to think about. And then the next one, I went, oh my God, you got to hear this one. It says, the headline was, the Bermuda Triangle Mystery Solved. And I love these kind of articles.
Yeah.
Says scientists, and I'm not even going to say his name. All right, scientists. And so you've got photo 4, you see where the Bermuda Triangle is. And of course, this is the area where over 50 ships, 20 airplanes have just mysteriously vanished, right?
Mm-hmm.
So his explanation is that it's rogue waves. And I'm thinking, that's great. It explains everything except for the missing airplanes.
Yeah.
I mean, rogue waves would not cause airplanes to just vanish off radar, right?
You wouldn't think so.
No. So he says it's 20-foot rogue waves. And apparently they collide and they create waves maybe up to 98 feet. But airplanes generally fly above 100 feet, right over the ocean. So, and I just went, well, that's a bunch of B as in B and S as in S. No. Crap. It's no good. What say you, Jeff?
I think that it's a combination of bad weather, a lot of traffic there, and observer bias. I think every time anything happens there, people say, oh, Bermuda Triangle, but things happen all over the planet that aren't in the Bermuda Triangle. You just don't think about it.
That's true.
That's my thing on that.
But if you study it, there have been some that are really weird.
Yeah.
You know,
there's weird things that happen all over the planet.
Right.
This just gets more attention because it's got a fun name.
Well, it's true. It's true.
Maybe there's an alien base underneath there too. Who knows? I don't know. But it just seems to me that a lot of it is confirmation bias. So
it's the home of the antiverse.
Could be.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know anything.
So let me know when Josh gets in the green room.
Let's play that.
What do we got? We got to do the commercial.
Yeah.
Then we'll do tech breakdown.
Okay.
And then we'll be ready for Joshua.
Here we go. We'll be right back.
Coming this fall to New York, the first annual New York Bigfoot Conference. On October 3rd and 4th, 2025, at the Holiday Inn Conference Center in Johnstown, Gloversville, with an amazing speaker lineup, including Dr. Jeff Meldrum, Cliff Barrickman, Renee Holland, Adam Davies, and Dr. Esteban Sarmiento, with Mark Dewart as Master of Ceremonies. The event is hosted by Loretta Collins and Mark Dewar. Tickets are on sale right now for the New York Bigfoot Conference.
Don't miss it!
Visit NewYorkBigfootConference.com for more information.
That's great. I love the new commercial. What a great lineup they got. That conference should be huge. Great lineup, good location.
And you can just rewind and you can scan that QR code and it'll take you right there to buy tickets.
Yep.
All right. Let's see here. Tech breakdown.
Here we go.
Technological breakdown.
All righty. Throw up the coyote. So I and many other researchers have suspected that Bigfoots have a relationship with coyotes, just through to things like game calling and hearing wood knocks or chest beating, with a game caller calling coyotes, basically. I've personally been at camp where I have heard wolves, not coyotes, but actual timber wolves running through my camp. You can hear them panting and chasing and deer probably. And then you'll hear right after them and you'll feel the ground shake, kind of bipedal running, boom, 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 following them. And I've witnessed that personally up in Canada with Mark. And that's just, it's nuts, but it makes sense. Coyotes and wolves have relationships with other animals like ravens. Okay, so the idea is to get one of these. This happens to be the best one from what I've researched. This is a coyote decoy used for coyote hunting. Only in this case, we're not hunting coyotes. So you can scent this with urine. It's got real fur on it. It's photoreal. And I think the tail even blows in the wind.
Cool.
So it's kind of cool. You're going to want to put it up against a tree. You're going to want to set it up quick, and maybe you can put a camera on the ground by it. You could do all sorts of sneaky things. You're going to have to use your imagination. But if you have an area where there've been recent activity and you could try this in the field, I think it would be well worth it. These aren't very expensive. Plus, you could make your own. You could take find the best coyote picture you can find online, take it to any vinyl shop, and have them print you a photoreal coyote cutout, and then cut it out, mount it on corrugated cardboard or plastic corrugated cardboard, and run some stakes behind it and use that. Make your own. You could add, you can buy coyote tails, fake or real or whatever you want. So that is one, I think, really cool idea. Another way to use animal decoys is still something that has not been tried, and I confess I haven't tried it either. And that is putting a camera trap out in the water. Go ahead and throw up photo 6. So what you're going to want to do is get a hold of a used or new AquaView camera. Any kind of, even a generic type, and there's generic ones that are quite cheap, especially if you buy a used one. And they're little 3/4 inch size cameras, about that size of less than a quarter, right? And cut off the chest area. Just take an X-Acto knife or a drill that out, mount the camera in there, hot glue it up. These have a weight at the bottom, and then you can string it and hook it to a little anchor, throw it out 20, 30 feet from shore, right? And you can, by putting 2 anchors, you can keep it lined up the way you want it.
Sure.
And then you can put the record unit, the big item that you see there with the LCD screen, put it in some kind of Tupperware container or a little tub and bury it. set it up with an auxiliary battery so you have a ton of record time. Put a big TF card in there, and you're going to have, 24, 30 hours of recording from the water to the shore. Right?
That's pretty cool.
You can leave apples out. You can do a little wood knock before you leave and just see what happens. But this is something I have not tried.
It's a neat idea. I like it.
I mean, I've built it, but I haven't deployed it yet.
Yeah.
I do have one built. Yes.
That's a cool idea.
I'll have to show you that next time we go over to the cave.
Yeah.
But yeah, just make sure people, check eBay, check Marketplace. I know you can get these things really cheap, but if you get a brand new one, they're $239. It's got a 50-foot, like a fiber optic Kevlar cord.
And
I have used these cameras for so much cool research.
Yeah.
It's what I put in the beaver den. I put it in a PVC housing and basically drilled a hole through a beaver lodge over a period of almost 2 years it took, and then put the tube in, and then the camera was in, protected in the tube. All right. Let's get Joshua introduced.
Okay.
Are you ready?
I am.
All right. I don't think. There it is. I did send it to you.
You did. I got a bunch of covers.
Joshua Cutchin's newest book called The Fourth Wall Phantoms. It says reflections on the paranormal, narrative, and fictions, becoming fact. So if you think about it, it's basically somebody out of our collective consciousness dreams up some creature, and next thing you know, it's a real creature. I think that's what he meant. I have not read the book, and I cannot wait to talk to him.
Yeah.
This is his newest book, and boy, he's got a lot of books.
Yeah, he does.
You can just go to Amazon and just put his name in, and then you can study all the books he has to offer. But let me read his bio real quick. A very shortened bio. His bio is massive. It's a very accomplished gentleman. All right. It says Cutchin has been featured on the hit History Channel television show Ancient Aliens, as well as in documentaries, I Believe in Bigfoot, The Shaver Mystery, in the breakout series Cosmosis, UFOs in a New Reality. He's the author of 8 critically acclaimed books. He is a speaker at many conferences and lecture halls. Joshua has appeared on countless paranormal programs such as this, discussing his work, including Coast to Coast AM, Mysterious Universe, is it Benali of, what is it? Benal. Jeff?
I'm sorry, you lost me.
You're lost. That's all right. I'm just trying to figure out how to pronounce it. Benal of America.
Not familiar with that.
I'm not. Expanded Perspectives, Radio Mysterioso, and now on Untold Radio.
Yeah, excited to have him here.
Yeah, he's an accomplished musician, a composer. I believe he plays the tuba, as I understand it. He's a blogger, a vlogger. I mean, you name it, he's done it. Let's welcome Joshua Cutchin.
All right, and welcome, Joshua.
Hello, gentlemen. It's such a pleasure to be here. Thank you so much. Wonderful bio. Great job paring it down.
Yeah,
a lot of stuff, man.
Well, I have a long one, and I have a medium one, and then I have a short one, and I have a really short one. And the really short one just says Joshua loves monsters. So
perfect.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Well, let's dive in. Let's dive into this monster thing. Because your book has got a lot of weird stuff on the cover, right? And you're talking about phantoms. And phantoms is a real cool word. That's kind of a catch-all. Like Bigfoot could be a phantom, I would imagine. But what's your definition of a phantom?
Oh, I suppose that it would be similar to my definition of spirit. When you say something's a spirit, a lot of us in, the modern West, we think, oh, ghost. But I think that there are a lot of things that probably could fall under that umbrella. Things that, yeah, probably were human beings at one point, but things that have never been human beings and will never be human beings, and maybe even things from our own minds. So that's sort of the broader umbrella term that I would probably use for something like phantoms.
Yeah. And the list is kind of endless.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, it certainly is. I mean, so my book before Fourth Wall Phantoms was called Ecology of Souls. And even though Fourth Wall Phantoms talks about significantly different subject matter, I love that idea of the spirit world or just the Fortean world being an ecology, right? Because we grow up and we're conditioned to think of like angels and demons and good forces and bad forces and positive and negative things. And that's not really the way an ecology works, right? I mean, everything has a niche to fill, right? And just because a great shark has interests that don't align with your interests, it doesn't make it evil. It makes it dangerous, but it doesn't make it evil. So I like the idea of these things functioning in a sort of ecology.
So do you, I always wonder that. Okay, everything has a purpose, Joshua. Don't you? I mean, you got to agree with that.
Absolutely.
Otherwise, why would it exist? And I always wonder, what is Bigfoot's purpose in life? Does it help the forest? Does it harbor information that's, some sacred information? Is it to set an example? I mean, you can go on and on with theories, but so you believe that all of these things in this crazy, mysterious world that people see, from Dogman, Mothman, blah, 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 all have some kind of belong to some type of an ecology?
I lean that way most times. But I think we sort of need to look at how granular we can get with the sort of niches that they fill. The longer that I'm involved in this, and the more I speak with, experiencers who have had these life events that have really profoundly changed them, changed their world, changed the way they think about their world, and quite frankly, enriched their world. Sometimes I wonder if that's not the purpose of some of these things, especially the one-off encounters where people see, I don't know, a purple elephant man out of nowhere and it never appears again.
Right. Those are weird. Those are weird. The one-offs.
Yeah. I think the one-offs might be tailor-made for us, to say nothing of the fact that, they might sort of be these stray ideas that we pick up on and just sort of enter our lives and change us and then move along, But I think that we really do need, we require a more expansive vocabulary to talk about these things. And one of the things that's really concerned me over the years is that, you and I, Doug, we sort of corresponded about this a little bit, and my weird Bigfoot opinions. My inner 12-year-old who grew up reading stuff like Jeff Meldrum's work, and my inner 12-year-old who grew up watching MonsterQuest, right? Really wants these things to be flesh and blood. So it's
Josh, stop.
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Please don't tell me you were only 12 when MonsterQuest.
No, I mean I'm 40 now, so I'm just referring to my inner young person.
He was channeling his inner 12-year-old when you watched.
No, you're a 12-year-old. I got you.
I guess the point that I'm getting at. I guess the point that I'm getting at is that I want these things to be, sort of the orthodox conventional explanations that UFOs are extraterrestrials and Bigfoot's a relic hominid. But I'm just trying to sort of follow where these things go. And it does occur to me that, I think we do need a more expansive definition of things like spirit and, quite frankly, like phantoms, because we've been conditioned to think of things in physical or non-physical or interior or exterior or fact and fiction, quite frankly, is sort of the fourth wall phantoms thing. And I just think that a lot of things that we see in this domain specifically, the paranormal, the supernatural, whatever you want to call it, really challenge that, right? So a good example of that is sometimes I run into people who say, well, Bigfoot has to be a flesh and blood creature because ghosts don't leave behind footprints. And I'm like, well, that was one of the earliest parapsychological investigation tools, right? Was spreading talcum powder on the floor and waiting for footprints to manifest. And slamming doors and, picking things up. So I think we need to really sort of think about how many of these things inhabit that sort of psychic world and how many of these things inhabit that physical world and whether or not they can sort of cross those barriers. I mean, you and me, right? I think we're predominantly physical but we have an important component of ourselves that's psychic. And I think that a lot of these things are predominantly psychic, but they have an important component that's physical. And just as we can sort of go into that psychic realm, these things can come into the physical realm. That's an idea I've been playing with and sort of workshopping, but it does sort of fit this expansive definition and this idea of an ecology that I've been playing with through a lot of my work.
I like that. I mean, I really do. I've never heard that term ever when it comes to the paranormal.
Yeah, so the phrase ecology of souls, I know we wanted to talk about fourth wall phantoms, and we'll get there.
Oh, we will.
But my last book, Ecology of Souls, that phrase is actually borrowed. To my knowledge, the only person who really used it was Terrence McKenna, the psychonaut, and he was talking about taking DMT and going into the DMT realm, and he was playing with the idea that as alien and foreign as that space feels, that it might not be machine elves in there, and it might not be extraterrestrials in there, but it might be something more akin to an ecology of souls, where the spirits of everything, human, non-human, living, dead, corporeal, non-corporeal, are all mixing and mingling, and again filling those niches.
And you talk about the niches, and so I always say niche. I don't know why I just can't force myself to say niche.
I may be really pretentious by that pronunciation. I'm not sure.
I just say niche. I'm like a third grade dropout. But I really do feel that there has to be a really important purpose. Could you kind of name what those might be? Just ideas on what they could be? Let's just say a purpose for people seeing like a dog man in the forest or a mothman. What would be a possible, I just call them diarrhea theories because we don't know.
No, but that's my bread and butter. Like, I'm predominantly, a theoretician, somebody who looks at interdisciplinary stuff, comparativism, phenomenology. So like, that's sort of my bread and butter. Yeah. I mean, one of the things that I'm really big on is this idea of reenchantment, right? You think about the way that we used to be, the way that we used to inhabit the world, and the way that we used to interact with the world, before cities and Wi-Fi and everything. And there's an aspect of our day-to-day lives that has really sort of fallen by the wayside.
Yeah.
And this occurred to me, right? This occurred to me probably a year ago now. I was at a children's science museum. I have twin boys. And I was at this children's science museum, and I was staring at this geology exhibit. And guys, I love it if you love geology, whatever. It's never been my thing, right? But something in that exhibit reminded me of something that 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 reminded me of UFOs, and that made that moment standing in front of a bunch of rocks a lot more interesting to me. And I think that sometimes that might be the purpose behind some of these things, is to tease out that more human part of ourselves. There's a great quote from this French ufologist by the name of Ami Michel, and I'm going to paraphrase it. I'm not getting it quite exactly right, but he said that ufology was one of the only disciplines where you start out looking at, reports of things in the sky, and you end up reading about Arab mystics. And that really is where I've found myself, because, I'm reading about, philosophies of reality and mystical traditions and stuff that I never would have engaged with. But
it's kind of a natural learning method.
Absolutely.
Yeah. No, I think that's important. I got most of my education in the library because I could read a book, go, I don't know what that is. Go to another book, find out what that is. And next thing you know, you're interested in math. But you have a reason now to be interested in that.
Well, I've talked with my wife about this a lot, but, number one, reading is the key to everything. But number two, whenever there's a day that goes by that I don't learn something new, I consider it a wasted opportunity, right? So, that's something that I've been trying to instill in my boys is, they don't have to know everything. I don't have to teach them everything, but I do have to teach them to be curious, right? And I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, the curiosity is the most important thing in life. And I always tell people, If you're curious, you're already smarter than 98% of the people on the
Isn't it
planet.
the truth? Isn't it? I'll never forget. Like, I had this really good friend. He was one of my groomsmen, right? He works at Jet Propulsion Labs now, but he was one of my groomsmen, and he was always having to listen to me be interested in Bigfoot and stuff. And I'll never forget how incurious he was about it. I love the guy, but he was like, "So what if there's another big monkey? Like, what does that mean? Well, why is that important?" And I'm like, "Dude, this rewrites and challenges everything."
Yeah.
So. That curiosity is something that I think is really important to hold on to.
And do you feel you spark curiosity? Does that motivate you to get kids and people interested in these things?
It's partially curiosity, but sometimes I find that the way to encourage curiosity is something that inspires curiosity in myself. By which I mean, whenever there's something that I find in my own worldview, my spiritual life, or my religious life, or my political life, or my relationship life, right? Whenever I find something that's inconsistent, or I don't know what to do with, or I feel like has room for doubt, right? I like to push on it, and I like to sort of look into it more and say, like, do you really think that? Like, what do you do with this? What do you do with this piece of data? What do you do with that piece of data? Yeah. And I think that's something that's really been sort of a North Star in a lot of stuff that I've done. And that's part of what, Fourth Wall Phantoms was there are these stories that I just have not known what to do with. And there are these stories of fictional characters that step into people's lives. I don't want to deal with that, y'all. Like, my weirdness cup is too full, right? I don't know how to incorporate that into a worldview, but the stories aren't going away.
Right.
And, I always try to believe experiencers, even if they say outlandish things. And so I think it's always interesting. My work never really engages with like, oh, is this true or false? Does Bigfoot exist or not? Do UFOs exist or not? Do fictional characters become real or not? Because that sort of binary question is always the least interesting thing to me. I think it's a lot more interesting to say, okay, well, if these stories are true, like what do we do? What do we do with them? How do we work these into a model that can sort of play nice with a lot of the other things that might be happening with reality and other disciplines like parapsychology and cryptozoology and ufology?
I've got a question. I'm going to throw you a lot of what I would call diarrhea questions too.
I love them. No, this is not diarrhea questions only in the fact that I do my best thinking on the toilet, right?
Well, good. Okay, so these are just unthought through, but do you think that when we see these things that they're intelligent, that they're letting us see them for a reason? What's going through their mind? You know what I mean? Let's reverse it. We know it. We always talk about what's going through the witness's mind, but what's going through the monster's mind?
Well, I mean, y'all have read enough experience stories or sighting stories. Like you know this trope, right? Where like the person sees the thing, whatever it is, the elf or the humanoid or the Bigfoot, and so many times they'll say it looked as surprised as I did. You hear that from time to time.
Yeah.
And so I love the idea of there being like 5 college Bigfoot in another dimension doing bong rips and winding up in our reality and being just as confused as we are. I really don't know. But that's an idea that I've always played with. One of the things that really sort of has stuck with me is there's this great line from the adaptation of the Mothman Prophecies, and the John Keel stand-in in that film says, you notice them and they notice that you notice them. And I think that idea of barrier breaking and looking across those barriers is a really important concept to sort of embrace, because that's really what, something like Fourth Wall Phantoms is about, right? It's about looking at and seeing those barriers and seeing the reality that lies beyond them. And once you do, you're sort of empowered to manipulate that reality. And I think that goes for them over here. And I think that it goes for us looking through the other side of the window pane.
So I always wonder if when these things occur, did the creature find itself scared? Did it find itself surprised? Is it a two-way surprise? What is our niche in their world?
Are there legends about us?
Yeah, right. Exactly. Yeah. Did you see that guy? My God.
It's really interesting, Doug. I think that there's a lot of room for playing with this idea of a two-way mirror, right? I mean, one of my favorite stories is that. So I love fairy folklore. I've done a lot of work comparing the UFO stuff to the fairy folklore, building off of what Dr. Jacques Vallée has done. But one of my favorite little tidbits that I found in some dusty old book about fairy folklore is that they laugh at our funerals and cry at our births. Mm-hmm. And it's this interesting idea of like, a loss on this side is a gain on their side, and a gain on this side is a loss on their side. And this idea that maybe we're engaged in some sort of revolving door with these things, and that their reactions to us might be sort of the 180-degree version of what we would feel. And I always thought that was kind of an interesting idea, that somehow there's a symbiosis, a relationship between us and this other space.
Do you think they need us to exist?
I mean, so, I talked about that inner 12-year-old, right? I don't want that to be the case. I really don't. I want there to be all these things that continue to exist outside of us. But as the years have gone on, I've really had to warm up to the fact that not only do they need us, but maybe we're the origin point for a lot of these things.
Yeah, so that's what your book is about.
Yes, a lot of it is, and it's a phenomenon that I thought was pretty isolated. Like I was like, oh, there's gonna be like 30 cases, and I'll get in and out. No, not at all. There is a book by the name of Embodied Imaginations by this individual named Chidambar Ramesh, and that entire book is just dedicated to people who have had experiences of interactions with their characters and their creations. And we're not talking about like just strange, obscure authors. I mean, we're talking about Kipling and Alice Walker and Heinrich Ibsen, when he was writing Doll's House. I mean, it's a lot of Charles Dickens, it's a lot of these people that we really think of still quite highly in our culture for being geniuses who have interacted with their characters. I personally have some friends who are very straight ahead, very tight-laced atheistic types who are writers of sci-fi. And even they've said to me, oh yeah, my character wouldn't let me do X, Y, Z. And I'm like, wait, do you hear yourself? Like how weird this sounds?
Okay.
Yeah.
Can you dwell on that just a little bit longer?
Well, I don't know if I can really explain it in terms. Ramesh sort of goes to some links to explain that, but there was another survey that was done. I'll try to pull up the stats here, but it was a survey from at the Edinburgh Book Festival, right? With they co-partner with Durham University, and they found out that 56% of the writers that they surveyed reported visual or other sensory experiences of their characters while they were writing, while a fifth of them had a sense that their character was occupying the same physical space. Another 15% conversed with their characters. This is out of 181 participants. 63% claimed to hear their characters speak while writing, while 61% reported characters that were capable of acting independently. And there's definitely a gradient there, right? I've experienced a little bit of this myself when I have written fiction. There's certain things that just don't feel right for the characters to do, but if that survey is to be believed, if the research that Ramesh has done is to be believed, and that's a very well footnoted book. It's sometimes as simple as like I can't force myself to force the character to do this, all the way to I opened the door and they were standing there for a split second and then they winked out of sight. And it's weird. It's weird.
But let's talk about what you're saying is consciousness.
Absolutely.
I've always felt, and I've got actually a real-time story with Jeff. Jeff just bought a motorcycle from me. He drove it home and now it won't run. And I'm thinking that damn thing's homesick because I treated that thing just like a king. I just love that thing. And Jeff's smiling there because he can't solve the problem. He's done everything. And I'm thinking, I'm going to go over there and talk to it.
Well, it's an Italian bike. So
it's an Italian bike.
I know what Italians are like.
But my point is it possible that not only machines, but like you said, these characters become conscious? Is that a wacky concept?
I mean,
to you?
Not at this point. So a couple of things.
Not at this point. Good night,
Right?
everybody.
Yeah. I mean, if you checked in with me 15 years ago, maybe I'd said yes.
I wouldn't have asked the question
yeah,
15 years ago.
Yeah, I mean, consciousness is the direction that all this stuff has really pushed me in. And if you look at there are models to accommodate something like what's been experienced here with the motorbike. I mean, in an older era, anthropologists would have called it animism, the idea that everything is ensouled. Nowadays, you'd hear the term panpsychism, and panpsychism is basically the idea that consciousness is in everything to varying degrees. That's sort of contrasted by like a paradigm like idealism. That in the idealist view of reality, everything is in consciousness, right? So consciousness is in everything versus everything is in consciousness. So those are some things that are definitely worth considering. I've been dwelling on something lately, y'all, and that really sort of I can't get out of my head. And it didn't make its way into the book, but it's the fact that we seem to have cracked the quote unquote code for artificial intelligence using language. And look, your mileage of AI may vary. My mileage may certainly vary, but like it was language that has sort of unlocked that holy grail that a lot of technologists have looked for. And this is something that the occultists have understood for a long time. This is something that a lot of indigenous societies have understood for a long time. I mean,
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, there are plenty of traditions where you don't refer to monsters by their names because you might conjure them. And so like to me that is it's sort of an uncanny idea, and it's only one step removed in a lot of ways for me from something like words on a page bringing a character to life. So yeah, I think that all this sort of comes to bear on questions like that. And look, manifestation is a thing. Like fourth wall phantoms didn't exist a year ago, right? Like, but now it does, and now we're talking about it. Everything,
right? Exactly.
Everything on my desk began as an idea. So like, it's not manifestation in the same way that like the New Agers would have us believe, but it is a thing. Like we can bring ideas into physical reality.
Is it possible that our consciousness is tied into, let's say, the Earth is conscious, which would be a hell of a consciousness, right? The Earth. Think about how big that would be. And maybe, our consciousness as humans gets tied into different things. And then it goes, oh, you need this or you want, and it just kind of creates it.
Or we're all appendages, like we're all appendages of that.
Right.
Yeah.
There's a great classic Twilight Zone episode about manifestation where a guy, he actually dictated into a tape, and he would dictate characters in the tape and they would come to life. And then as long as the tape existed, that physical character existed, and but if he wanted to get rid of it, he'd throw the tape in the fire and the character would vanish. Poof.
Oh, those old episodes are so far ahead.
And that was a long time ago.
I love them. Yeah,
I mean,
love
that's
them all.
Pretty cool stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I have noticed probably in the last more than ever 10 years, as I get older, that things have to be manifesting around me sometimes. For instance, if I had a camera up on the corner, I would be able to look both ways. There would be no people. There never is. But the moment I pull up to that stop sign, there are people crossing back and forth.
Yep.
And every time, it's every time. It doesn't matter night or day, but yet there's nobody ever there.
I'll never forget. Like I was at a conference with some friends, and we were all riding in my car, and there was this train that would cross at the least opportune times when you're trying to come back from lunch. And we're sitting there and we're watching the train. I say, you know what? I said, I know how to make this train be over really quickly. I said, I'm going to get out and look and see how much time we have. And I said, I'm going to get out and look, and it's going to be ending right there. And I'm going to have to run back to the car to get back in time. And guess what happened? So, I don't know how many of these little things we take for granted.
Well, have you experienced, Joshua, have you ever experienced a glitch? Like some kind of weird glitch that you went, that's impossible.
I have my share of Mandela effect stuff that resonates.
Okay, Mandela. Well, tell us one. Share one.
Well, look, I
know you.
I reached out to someone who runs a James Bond podcast because they were talking about Moonraker, and I said, "Hey, you know what I found out?" I said, "The girl in Moonraker, who smiles at Jaws with the braces, You know, there's this big swell of music because it's implied that because they both have metal teeth, they're going to fall in love. Yeah, she doesn't have braces. And he's like, what are you talking about? He's like, I know this movie better than anybody else. You know, I run a James Bond podcast. I'm like, yeah, I know. I was weirded out by it too. Go back and take a look at the film. And he writes back and he's like, oh my gosh, like I've got the Mandela effect too. So that one is really uncanny to me because the gag doesn't work if she doesn't have braces, you know. So that's one good example of a Mandela effect that's really resonated with me. And look, I get it. Like some of them are just faulty memory and, you know, sort of things that we look back on and we sort of talk to other people who have kind of another vague memory and we don't necessarily agree. But like this one, like I distinctly remember that gag because that's the only reason it works in that film. Yeah. And yeah, she doesn't have braces. Yeah.
That's terrible. That is crazy. You know, glitches, I'm not trying to hog the conversation, but me and my daughter went to a family reunion. We checked into the hotel, put our luggage in our room. We had to get to the family reunion. So we start walking down towards the elevator, and the elevator opens up suddenly. And there's a family, very distinct family that comes out of the elevator. And they were dressed a certain way, and the guy had like an afro. I mean, they were very distinct. The mom was short. We get in the elevator. We wait for them to get out. We get in the elevator. We go down. We get outside, and here they come walking towards the hotel. And my daughter looked at me and goes, "Glitch!"
Yeah, it's just one of those things, right?
Yeah,
you know? And like,
exactly.
and when you consider like how many people have those on a daily basis, and just on a smaller level, right? And just sort of write them off. Like we could really be permeated in this sort of phenomena all the time and just just be constantly coping with it. Right. Yeah. And so like, so the question to me becomes, you know, if reality is indeed this malleable, right?
Yeah.
And this is partly me just being contrarian. So feel forewarned. But if reality is this malleable, then why do we have to like pursue these conventional explanations for what a lot of these mysteries are, right?
Yeah.
Like why do ghosts have to be dead people? Like they could be a lot of things now. You know, why do UFOs have to be extraterrestrials, right?
Yeah.
And so one of the things that I try to sort of talk about a little bit in Fourth Wall Phantoms, like the fictional characters are the entry point. But the case that I try to build, and again, I'm not even sure if I believe it myself, but it's a fun thought experiment, right?
Right.
Do these other phenomena, the UFO stuff, the cryptozoology stuff, the parapsychology stuff, do they sort of latch on to our fictions and incorporate them into their appearance to us, right? This has been talked about a bit in the UFO field. Bertrand Mayust, a French scholar, sort of pointed out that a lot of aspects of UFO sightings, even some alien abductions, really seem to be prefigured in a lot of like early pulp sci-fi magazines. Here in the U.S., one of my favorite scholars, Martin Kottmeyer, has done similar work, and sure enough, Martin has illustrated quite convincingly that while the first recorded account of a UFO shutting off an engine was the Levelland sightings in Texas.
What year was that?
57 or something, was that right?
Okay, a long time ago. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm not, you say I'm gonna fact check myself.
That is, I remember. But I remember that.
I did it right.
I remember hearing that back when I was a kid, and that story really creeped me out for some reason.
But the interesting thing is that like that wasn't the first time a UFO had actually shut down an engine, because there were examples of that exact same thing in these old pulp sci-fi magazines. Now, here's the thing though, is like I think that if I take that idea of like something supernatural shutting off an engine, and I say, okay, well, how can we sort of use those same motifs and see if there's an earlier real life precedent for that? I think we can find that, because like, you know, you've got examples of ghosts blowing out candles. Isn't that the same thing? You know, the supernatural coming in and shutting down our technology. But the suspicion that I arrived at over the course of Fourth Wall Phantoms is that like, yeah, and there's probably an earlier religious text that supersedes that, and something else that's real before that. And it's just this interplay of art reality, until you probably wind up, guys, at petroglyphs, right? You probably wind up at rock art as far as like, you know, the origins for this stuff. And then you're like, well, is that reality? Is that art? You know, or are those distinctions really inconsequential when you look that far back?
Right. Is Bigfoot included in Fourth Wall Phantoms?
Well, this is the weirdest. I can't even believe that I'm bringing this up, but like, so if the UFO phenomenon seems to like adopting a lot of our media tropes, right? And it does. There are things that appear in fiction that the UFO phenomenon picks up, and you hear in what sound like very genuine, authentic reports. Does the domain of cryptozoology and all the cryptids in there, do they do that too? And not a lot of work has been done on this, but I have an idea. And I mean, it's a hypothesis in the truest sense, because I can't, it's completely unfalsifiable, right? It's a diary of thought, right?
Yeah, love it.
Bigfoot is Predator. Like, Bigfoot is the Predator from the film Predator. And by that, I don't necessarily mean that it is, but I mean that the way that we think of Bigfoot in pop culture, which might sometimes manifest in sightings, a lot of that, I think, does sort of resonate with that sort of the creature from Predator. I mean, you've got this pretty much the same height. You've got some stories of Bigfoot having dreadlocks. They're sometimes jumping from tree to tree. They glide effortlessly through the underbrush, just like the creature does in the film. I've collected reports of droning stories in conjunction with Bigfoot, which is a lot like the vision that the Predator has. I mean, the Predator saw an infrared vision. How many times have you heard some people suspect that maybe the reason that we don't catch more Bigfoot on trail cams is because they can see the infrared of the trail cams, right? Both are resistant to firearms. Both seem really good at mimicry, right? That's the way that the Predator lures in prey. I have plenty of stories, I'm sure you've heard them too, of Bigfoot being a really great mimic. And then time and time again, you'll hear people say, the people who claim that Bigfoot can cloak, what do they always compare it to? They always compare it to Predator. There's an article on the BFRO about a gentleman who actually sort of was triggered. His PTSD was triggered from his Bigfoot sighting while watching Predator, because he said it moved so similarly. And and sort of the cherry on top is that the actor inside the Predator suit was Kevin Peter Hall. And then 2 months later, another film with Kevin Peter Hall was released, and that was Harry and the Hendersons. He's the guy in the Bigfoot suit.
Oh,
so
really?
Yeah. So like, do we just call that a synchronicity?
Yeah.
Is it just a synchronicity? Obviously, some of these things that I'm pointing out, some of these similarities predate the release of Predator. I really don't know what to do with it, but I think that it's the sort of soup that we wind up in, right? When we're talking about these things, where we have this interplay of culture and the phenomenon, it becomes this like dialogue or this loop. It's almost like the phenomenon itself, which I am using to encompass UFOs, cryptids, and ghosts. The phenomenon itself sort of picks and chooses little aspects of pop culture and sort of grafts it onto itself. That's an idea, right? I'm not saying it's right. Definitely the case, but like, that's a lot of similarities between Bigfoot and Predator.
That's it. I've never heard that comparative. Never. That's really interesting.
Well, I tell it to people, and they look at me like I've got an arm growing out of my forehead, but once you see it, you can't unsee it.
Yeah.
Well, the things like I've personally experienced that I cannot explain, but maybe you could, is one time we were in a cabin, it wasn't the Snow Grove cabin, it was a different cabin. We were there with 4 people, and in about the middle of the night, I heard something walk up on the porch and open and close over and over a recycling bin for glass. Then it walked down, messed with the tonneau cover, then walked up, and then it did the other one on the other side for aluminum. And it opened and closed it like a whole bunch of times. And it kept doing that. And I'm thinking, okay, I got my daughter sleeping next to me. Do I throw the curtain, rip the tape off the blanket and open the window and scare this thing? You know what I mean? And die. Or do I just lay here and be quiet and hope it just goes away? And so all of a sudden, it's probably maybe 20 minutes before the sun would break. It's in the summer, long day, and kaboom. It's like a semi, Joshua, hit the side of the cabin. It wasn't a pound or a fist. This was like a semi truck. The bed flew away from the wall about a foot and stayed there. And that's when my daughter sat up and said, "What the F?" And I'd never heard her swear ever in my life. And she looked at me and she was like, that was like, what could do that?
Yeah.
So apparently she was awake, just listening to what was going on too,
Now, remind me, is this the same time where You were trying to wake up the other gentleman. Was it like
no? This was at a different cabin on the border of Canada and the U.S. in the U.S. side. 11 miles on a logging trail to get there. But it was another one near blueberries. I went during blueberry season, right on the border of the Boundary Waters canoe area.
Yeah.
And it was on water. It had all these aspects. And we were hearing screams. And when we were unpacking, we were hearing Bigfoot screams coming from the forest and wood knocks. And my son's like, see, for him, it was proof that no matter where we go, they follow us.
Right.
That's his theory, right? And I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. I think there's more of these things and whatever. None of us know.
Right.
But then when that happened, it changed so many weird things for me, because I had been up at Snow Grove when they had lifted the whole cabin up and rocked it. And that was also kind of supernatural. And the camp owner talked about it lifting and flipping upside down a 1,200-pound gas tank.
Just phenomenal strength. Well, and so this is one of the things that I like to do. And again, I guess I just have a little bit of a contrarian streak, right? But like, if you take all the things that Bigfoot is supposed to be good at,
right,
it's the best at like 12 different things, right? Like, it's the highest jumper, and it's because that's one of the explanations for the abruptly ending trackways, right? Is that like, oh, it must have jumped to a nearby tree, and sometimes you're 300 feet away from the nearest tree, and like a klipspringer and a snow leopard can't do that, but a Bigfoot can. And they also have bioluminescent eyes, according to some people. And, they're also the world's best mimics, and it's like, well, how many things does Bigfoot get to be the best at?
Yeah, it's interesting. And they can produce infrasound, and now we're recording hums, the strange humming sound.
Yeah,
and they sing, and oh man.
Well, and so here's a lot of what I like to do is sort of that sort of comparative aspect. So you mentioned that strange humming sound. You look at the number of spirit interactions, alien abductions, psychedelic trips, near-death experiences that sort of start off with that strange humming or buzzing sound. And it sort of starts to make me wonder if these things aren't all somehow related in one way or another, the example with, what is his name, Vladimir, or was it that you couldn't wake up?
It was Vladimir. Used to be
Vladimir. Okay. Yep. So that's another example that like I see that I hear that and I'm like, okay, well, I've read that same sort of phenomenon with in one of Tom Powell's book about them having like the perimeter alarms go off and you can't wake up somebody. And then I'll go and I'll read that same thing from a Welsh fairy abduction where the wife can't wake up her husband. And then that's a trope of the alien abduction lore too, is that like, I was awake and my husband wouldn't wake up. So it's like, I think
Whitley Strieber
here
talked about that. Strieber did.
Yep, Whitley's talked about that too. So it's like, so I'm not saying that, like, again, I try to really present a lot of my stuff with an open hand, and just like, I'm just curious in these connections if there are any. And for me, it's not about saying like, oh, Bigfoot must be a fairy, or oh, Bigfoot must be an alien. I don't think that. Like,
I love how you're just so open to everything.
Well, I just think that we don't have the language to talk about what this thing might be or what these things might be, and I think that language, for all its power, is also a very sort of limiting thing. So I try to sort of keep as open a mind as I can without sort of applying labels to this stuff, and try to keep it in that sense of superposition, right?
Yeah. Well, let's get into I do want to go backtrack, then talk about Bigfoot more and some of the weirdness. But tell us, if you can tell us what's really cool about your book. Like, why do you think it's really cool?
Because
I think it is. I mean, from what the concept's so original.
I appreciate it. I think the thing that has really changed me, I won't say really cool, because I'm a nerd and nothing about me is cool, right? But the thing that's really changed me in terms of the journey that I went on through this book, is there's this old sort of chestnut that's been kicked around amongst paranormalists for the past, 60 years or so, which is like, when you look at the phenomenon looks back, right? John Keel called this the reflective factor. And I can't help but see a parallel between that and this idea of breaking the fourth wall, right? Which is, in case anybody doesn't know, it comes from the theater. The idea is there's, the backdrop and the two walls, and there's an invisible fourth wall between the characters and the audience. And whenever the characters acknowledge the audience, that's breaking the fourth wall. This concept is a much debated, much discussed topic in narratology, the study of stories, and it's called metalepsis. Breaking the fourth wall is called metalepsis, and it's whenever the narrator interacts with the characters interact with the narrator, or the audience interacts with it. A lot of different variations on it, right? To me, that seems so close to what's happening when you say, you look at the phenomenon and the phenomenon looks back. Like, you acknowledge something that's beyond the frames of this reality, and then you're able to interact with it. And I'll be darned, if you go through some of these essays on this fourth wall breaking sort of stuff, and you replace that phrase with the supernatural, it reads the same. Like, the characters experience existential crises, or it's all quite humorous, or like, the characters learn how to manipulate reality or to see beyond reality once it's all the same thing as the supernatural. And so that's sort of what we're talking about when we're talking about characters coming off the page, right? Like, that's the ultimate fourth wall break, if such a thing ever did exist. And what really, really hit home for me on this is that there's a bit of scholarship that I found by this, I believe, German narratologist by the name of Grethlein. And he was looking at Greek vases, right? And if you think about a traditional Greek vase, all the figures are always in profile, right? They're never looking at the person who's looking at the vase. They're never sort of breaking the fourth wall, right?
Only you would notice that.
Well, this guy did. I noticed this guy noticing.
Only you would notice.
I noticed the significance of this, though, because there are exceptions to this, and those exceptions, the characters that are painted facing the viewer, are the dead, sleepers, those in altered states of consciousness, deities, and monsters. And that's the list of your paranormal suspects right there, right? I mean, it's all those things that you see and hear about time and time and time again. And so it implies to me that this, like, our modern culture is we're some of the last people to catch up on this idea that you could almost read reality like a text, and that you could maybe sort of break and bend those rules once you acknowledge the existence of the supernatural world. So I don't know how literal I'm supposed to take it. Obviously, this leads you into places like simulation theory, theories of what reality is, which we talked about earlier. My friend and colleague, Dr. Jeffrey Kripal, has talked about reading paranormal experiences as texts. I don't know how literal we can take this, right? But, to paraphrase Eric Davis, the author of a book called High Weirdness, I take these things seriously, but not literally. And in that sense, even if it's just a metaphor, I think it's a really potent metaphor for what happens when you become awakened to this greater reality.
Do you feel that people today, right now, are more open to the paranormal than they were back 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 800? I mean, way back. Is there any kind of comparative we can go from today to way back, even maybe 2,000 years ago? It just seems to me it's very black and white. It's either like people do or they just don't.
I feel like I've seen a real thawing in terms of people's resistance to the paranormal over the past, 10 years or so.
That's a good word.
That's sort of anecdotal from my own church family and things like that, and family members, quite frankly. But, I think it's interesting. I think that we're just in trickster times, right? I mean, so how ironic is it that we're making the best gains in UFO disclosure during a period in time when no one trusts institutions? And I would argue that, like, we wouldn't have these developments without that mistrust in institutions, right? It's almost like the phenomenon's like, okay, well, now's the time where we can come out and be a little bit more open, but no one's still going to believe that we exist,
that's kind of an interesting take on what's going on. Yeah,
I think it's trickster times, because, like, we're I posed this thought experiment to a group at a conference one time. I'm like, imagine the person that you didn't vote for in the last election is now president, and they're telling you that UFOs are real. Do you believe them? And the answer is no. Like, so you're never going to get more than 50% of the population believing in this stuff. So that's the perfect time. If I'm a UFO or I'm just the paranormal in general, that's the perfect time to be more open, because, you know, we're never going to get a smoking gun on it in that regard, I don't think. You know, and so you know, anecdotally, I think that, you know, a lot of people are opening up to this, and what I've seen from the disclosure movement, like, I've been very historically critical of the disclosure movement, right? But I've softened on that a bit, because I don't think the goal was ever to really like disclose exactly where these things come from or what they are. I think that the point was to put a crack in the facade of people's disbelief, and by that I mean, you know, 20 years ago, if you went up to someone on the street and you asked them about the Kennedy assassination, like, a good portion of them would buy into the official narrative, right? That's not the case in 2025, you know? And so I think what the disclosure movements, at least their phase one aim has been to like get people to sort of that point with the UFO question, right? And so, you know, to that extent, you go up to people nowadays about the Kennedy assassination, you ask them their opinion, and they'll say, well, I don't know, it's kind of fishy, there's something strange there. And that's where we're getting with UFOs, I think, you know. And from UFOs, so go Bigfoot, so go ghosts, so go everything else, you know.
Yeah. So let's hone in on one particular phantom that's in your book. What's one of the more interesting phantoms that's talked about in your book?
Oh, wow. You know, one of my favorite stories, simply because it's happened so many times, is the story of the stories rather about John Constantine, DC Vertigo Comics character, paranormal occult detective, who's been in a couple of different adaptations at this point, created by Alan Moore, who is a magician, self-professed magician himself. He said that, you know, he sort of based him on Sting, but like he became his own character and developed this character. Well, you know, a couple of years later, he's sitting at a sandwich shop in I think Westminster. And he says this character walks up, you know, the stairs, and he kind of is wearing the long trench coat, and he's got some cigarettes in his back pocket, and he's kind of gruff, and he's got this tousled hair, and he kind of looks like Sting. Actually, no, he looks just like John Constantine. And the creator and Constantine like sort of share a knowing nod, and then they go about their way. And, you know, Alan Moore was like, I didn't know what to do in that sort of a situation. Like, you know, what's the social etiquette for meeting your creation? He's like, you know, he saw me, I saw him, whatever, you know, we just sort of left it like that at that. Now, that sounds like, you know, the sort of one-off, you know, rantings of a madman, until you consider the fact that I think Constantine has appeared maybe 3 or 4 more times to creators who've worked on that particular title. And every time the reaction is more or less the same. Like, there's this, they're passing each other on the street. There was another creative who had taken over the Constantine title, and he was passing the London Museum. And they sort of looked at each other on the street and they nodded, and, you know, he went about his business. A good friend of mine who was working on some fan fiction of Constantine says that she thinks she also saw him as well. But that's always the vibe that people get, is like,
so that's a great case for manifesting.
Oh, absolutely. Well, so
Really
here's the thing, though. Here's the real wrench that you get thrown into it, is like, if you do sort of follow someone like Carl Jung and the collective unconscious, like, are we manifesting these things, or are we just wombs, right? Are human beings wombs for ideas? You know, does it come from us, or are we just sort of a vector for making these things happen? And there's this quote that's been attributed to.
Well, maybe that's our purpose. I mean, we don't even know really what the purpose of humans is, right?
Well, you know, there's this quote that's attributed to Jung, and not really sure if he ever said it, but it's still a great quote. Is that people don't have ideas; ideas have people. And, you know, every now and then you'll meet these people in your life who are fully embodying some pretty specific archetypes. I have some that are some dear friends of mine. And yeah, you do get that sense that, like,
that was a big statement. Say that again for everybody so they can all take that in, so we can enjoy that statement, Josh.
People don't have ideas. Ideas have people. Yeah. And, there are certain archetypes that we plug into. I really do think. I mean, I'm a great example, right? before I ever learned about the trickster and all this sort of trickstery stuff, and boundary breaking and upsetting the social order and sort of being a little bit vulgar, like these are all trickster characteristics. I was that around the Thanksgiving table, like every time we got together, like I'd be the one who was like never taking sides and sort of needling people and, being a little bit too crass and all these things, like sort of trying to like give everybody a hard time equally, and so like we do tap into these archetypes for a while, or from time to time, and I think that they find us, or at least they're like there are archetype shaped holes which we plug into very easily. Maybe that's a better way to put it.
That's a good way of putting it.
Yeah, that's it's fascinating. What, like Slender Man's another example of this kind of a thing. Even these shadow figures that I never heard anything about, and now it's like everybody I talk to is like, "Oh yeah, I saw a shadow dude last week," and I'm like, "What?"
So I started calling these things fictional incursions, right? That was the as opposed to saying like characters.
Okay, I'm gonna start writing all these damn terms down.
Well, it was a more utilitarian way of saying, like, instead of having to say over and over again, characters that came to life or all those variations, I just said fictional incursions. My favorite fictional incursion is Gumby. I've got a couple of stories of Gumby.
No way.
And again, like, seriously, but not literally, right? I don't know if these people really saw Gumby. I'm just collecting the stories. All right.
Right. No, I get it.
And the person, saw like a 7-foot tall version of Gumby walking out of a cornfield in Nebraska. Now, the interesting thing about Gumby specifically is that he sort of embodies this weird fractal logic that you get when you're sort of looking at things like fourth wall breaks and theories of reality and these synchronicities and stuff. Gumby was more or less sort of based on the Gingerbread Man. His son, Arthur Clokey's son, actually said this. He said he based him on the Gingerbread Man. And I'll be darned, the Gingerbread Man is kind of the same idea as a fictional incursion, right? Because the Gingerbread Man is a created person that the old couple makes. They make the Gingerbread Man. He takes on a life of his own. He runs around, causing havoc until he gets eaten by the fox.
Creepy story. Creepy kid story.
But it's sort of it's actually an entire set of stories. It's a motif in the Arne Thompson Folklore Index. It's called the Runaway Pancake motif. It's a set of stories about creations that come to life on their own. So yeah, Gumby not only is sometimes reported, but is also sort of based on this older idea of fictional incursions.
That's crazy. And is the story? Did you actually talk to this person that saw the 7-foot tall Gumby come out of a cornfield?
No, I did not. There are a couple of there are a good number of people that I spoke with who have their stories that were published for the first time in the book. But the more you look, these stories have been out there for a long time. And they get reported in a lot of places. It's just that they don't really sort of make it into any sort of literature because they're too wild. And having said that, I wasn't going to YouTube for my stories, and I wasn't going to Reddit for any of my stories. For the most part, I was leaning on the work of other researchers and friends of mine who have spoken to these witnesses.
Okay. Yeah. That's crazy. So when you and Dean Bertram get together, did your heads explode?
I love Dean so much. He's great. Yeah. Yeah. We just really nerd out. We nerd out.
I can only imagine. I can only imagine, because Dean has got this brain too that's really amazing, right?
Yeah,
his brain's amazing, and your brain's amazing. I can just imagine what happens when the two of you get together. I can only comprehend it. It's magical. So,
well, and you know what? I mean, I'll be honest with you, Doug. Like, it's so irritating that there is this trope of like unread people being into the paranormal. I mean, it's just patently not true. Love you, Dean. It's patently not true. Like, I think that, like a lot of things, there are people who are a little bit naive or a little bit gullible. Yeah, but like at the same time, I'm not lying. Like I've spent a lot of time in grad school, right? The smartest people that I have met have been in this field. They haven't been other grad students. They haven't been my professors.
Right.
It's been people in this field.
I agree. I agree.
And the most thoughtful people, you know.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree, because like when I go to, I know you go to a lot of conferences, far more than I do, but when I do go, I'm always so impressed with the people I meet because of the questions and the fact that they're there at 9 a.m. on a beautiful Saturday, sitting in a hard steel chair, waiting to hear a lecture.
Well, you know, there was this moment in college where I was, you know, sitting at a party, and I was kind of disheartened because, like, I'd come to the realization, I was like, oh man, everywhere I go, it seems like the smartest people in the room are the atheists. And, you know, as someone who grew up Christian and still is, you know, practicing Christian today, was a really disheartening thing to sort of think and realize. But now that I'm enmeshed in this, the smartest people in the room that I run into nowadays are the occultists. And I'm not saying that I am an occultist, but I'm saying, like, if you want to find someone who's done a lot of reading and who has read a lot of stuff that they disagree with as much as stuff as they agree with, the occultists are a pretty good place to start. Like, they've got a
well, I don't even know what that term really means. I'll admit that to you.
You know, ceremonial magicians, chaos magicians, people like that, people who, you know, practice, you know, people who have adopted pagan paths and sort of talk about things like manifestation. You know, and my favorite ones that are friends of mine really do sort of take that open-handed approach, and they don't really insist too strongly on their understanding of what they're talking about. But they're saying, hey, this is what I've read, and this is what I read, and this is kind of what I feel. But, like, you know, it's always much more invitational than it is sort of declaring the way things are.
Well, I've always steered away from any of that stuff because I always feel I'm too dumb and too innocent. And so,
I feel you. I keep it at arm's length too. Yeah,
I feel like they're going to try to suck my soul out.
No,
I just steer clear of any of that kind of stuff. Although I'm interested in the paranormal.
No, what you got to do, Doug, is you got to have like one or two really good friends that you trust who are into the occult, and then you don't have to do anything. Like, they do everything for you.
just the term gives me chills. I don't know anything about it.
You know, your story about the college party, that really ties into what you said a little bit ago about people who kind of become archetypes or tropes. Is people that become really good at acting like what they think a smart person acts like. That is really, really a disturbing phenomenon. But the older and more wise that I get, not that I'm that wise, I see that all the time, is people that come off as smart, they're really not. Really smart people are open-minded, and people that act smart, not open-minded at all. That's my opinion.
That's the most incisive observation I've heard in a while, Jeff.
Oh,
that's. I mean, you're absolutely right.
Well, that's part of
it's a good connection. It's a good connection for what you just said.
But you had mentioned like the Christian, Christianity. There are a lot of Christians I meet that are very closed-minded. I don't like.
Sure,
I don't like that. I wish they would, open up a little bit, because it doesn't go against their religion to open your mind a little bit versus just everything's black and white exactly to this.
Well, anecdotally, boots on the ground in that community, and I sort of alluded to this earlier, but I'm getting some of the strangest questions after church nowadays, questions that I would have not even been approached with, 7 years ago. They're coming up and they're asking me about Skinwalker Ranch, and they're asking me about Chris Bledsoe, and I'm like, what, where am I? And I'm not in like a really weird church, I don't think. But there are people who are opening up to the fact that, like, hey, look, the Bible is the most paranormal book ever written. It's better to acknowledge the time for turning a blind eye to this aspect of reality is over. And it's time to sort of engage with this thing and at least start formulating your own ideas about what it is. And while I might not always agree with those interpretations, I have to respect the idea that they're at least acknowledging their existence.
Yeah. No, I just think it's good to be really open, really good to be curious. And I certainly do feel that the whole monster topic or phantom topic gets people interested in many disciplines.
Reenchantment, right? We're back where we started with that idea of reenchantment. Yeah.
I've been so blessed with hearing, getting many, many letters from people who say, hey, I became a PhD, or I got my science degree because of MonsterQuest.
Oh, that's
Religion
awesome.
Meets Science.
That's awesome.
And I've met hundreds like that. I'm like, whoa, that's just not something you thought of. but it definitely sparked curiosity. The wholesome fear is good, I think, right? Being a little bit of afraid, but kind of in a wholesome, clean, you know what I mean?
No, I know exactly what you mean. And you know, over the years, like, we've been sort of conditioned to like have a distaste for skeptics and stuff, but I've met and really become friends with some really great skeptics, and the best skeptics are the ones who acknowledge the fact that even if none of this stuff we talk about has any sort of objective reality to it,
right,
it's still worth exploring and it's still worth looking at, because at the very least it tells us something about ourselves, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Well, a good skeptic will say, I don't know what this means. A bad skeptic will say, no, this isn't true. Without a whole lot of evidence, you know?
Right. Or they're just, you know, it's just there's sort of an air of superiority that the worst skeptics like to wield, and it's just like, give me a
condescension.
break.
It just drives me crazy. Like, I think I'm more of a skeptic, but I'm also in a lot of ways a believer. I'm okay saying
he just hasn't seen anything. He's very open-minded.
I am. I'm okay saying I don't know. I don't know. I'm open to a lot of things. I just
he actually saw his first really weird thing with me here last week. We were driving down the road and we saw this miniaturized, full-grown deer that was only about tiny, like maybe a foot and a half.
It was an adult deer. It was unquestionably an adult deer, but tiny.
Just like you scaled one down, a white-tailed deer, and scaled it down.
And 3 of us saw it. Broad daylight, very close up.
So that was Jeff's first weird thing,
with
when he was with me. Yeah. And I could have told that story and he'd have went, yeah, right. You know.
Well,
I question things,
That and the obstinate motorcycle, right?
We're gonna have to get a priest over there and take care of that motorcycle.
Exercise it. Yeah, you never know.
Jeff, though, you sort of reminded me of something that my mentor Greg Bishop has talked about a lot, which is sort of this idea of the excluded middle, right? You know, so it's like you end up a little bit too skeptical for the believers and believing a little bit too much for the skeptics. You're like, well, where's my tribe? You know, where are my people? But I think sometimes that can be the healthiest place to be, right? Because you can allow yourself to be swayed back and forth.
One explanation that's kind of given me a little bit of a free pass with some of the more skeptics and atheists and whatnot, because I'm a Christian too. I'm very much a believer, strong faith. But I acknowledge that faith is inherently an irrational thing, and I'm okay with that. I'm not trying to convince anybody that I have, you know, smoking gun proof of anything. I acknowledge that it's kind of an irrational belief, and as long as we can accept that, then I'm fine getting along with just about anybody.
Yeah, and well, you know, this is what I meant by like the occultists, like sort of being the smartest people in the room, is because like none of the atheists have read Kierkegaard, you know. Yeah. None of the atheists have read C.S. Lewis. Like, they haven't really seen some of the most nuanced, open. They haven't really been there in the room for the wrestling, you know.
Right.
And that really is irritating. Whereas, you know, a lot of the people who are sort of on a variety of other spiritual paths, like, have sort of faced these questions as opposed to just throwing out the whole endeavor. You know.
Mm-hmm. Agreed.
Where did you? Who was it in your family, or what influence affected you to become so basically not only intellectual but have a memory like a steel trap? Who was it that influenced you to turn out this way?
Doug, I wish I could say. Like, I can't tell you. Like, I forget my nephew's birthday. It's like, I'm a horrible person.
Don't tell me your mom got hit by lightning.
No. It's like, you say I have a steel trap. I just have a steel trap about this weird little thing that I'm interested in. I'm horrible about remembering interpersonal details.
I'm the exact same way. I can't remember somebody's name to save my life most of the time.
I think part of what it is, is that, you know, I ended up with, through a series of circumstances that we don't have enough time to go through, and which would probably bore you.
Oh yeah, we do.
I ended up with 2 master's degrees, and like, you can't spend that much time in academia without really sort of loving. Either you're ready to get out, or you sort of end up fostering a love for, you know, some of these ideas, some of these theoretical ideas, a love for footnotes and endnotes. Like, you know, I think my Ecology of Souls has like 2,400 endnotes. So like, but as far as like, you know, that sort of academic approach, I really can't say. You know, I was.
I mean, what did your parents do? What did your parents do for a living?
My mother was a homemaker, and my father was a lawyer. So
Well,
maybe it's the legalistic thing. But
you got to be pretty sharp to be a lawyer. So.
I mean, you know what it really was, Doug? I think in hindsight, and this is something that I'm trying to do with my sons too, is like just being in an open household, you know? And by that, I mean like, yeah, I grew up in a Christian household, but there wasn't any exclusion of these odder things, these more peculiar things. And like whatever I wanted to read, my parents let me read. Like it wasn't like there were certain things that are off limits.
They didn't criticize you or try to make you believe one thing or the other.
There was a standing rule in our household for me and my sister that was my like if either of us wanted to go to a bookstore on vacation or something, you get a book, you know. I'm not going to say not today. I'm not going to do this or that or the other. If you want to get a book and you're going to read it, and you know after we proved that we would read them, you get to come home with a book whenever we go to the bookstore.
I think a lot of it has to do with how much the parents actually respect the child, and because I think a lot of kids are kind of like old souls. They like, you know what I mean? They just they kind of know what they want to do in life. And I grew up in a family where our parents just respected each of us and just treated us like adults since we were little kids. And we never got steered. They never tried to steer us into anything. Yeah. They loved us, respected us, and that's it. Hands off,
Well, and not like, not like leaning too much on baby talk or like oversimplifying things.
Right.
And, like, sort of addressing complexities and nuances and stuff as early as you reasonably can. Like, I think that I fall short of that in my own parenting. But I think that has played a big role, and it's sort of it's an aspiration for me to sort of.
Well, we used to get together every Sunday, everybody in my family, my older brother, everybody, and we would just talk about science or whatever topic came up, but we would all discuss that topic.
Yeah.
It was and I just thought every family did
You're
that.
really fortunate to have that.
I mean, there were certain rules about like, you can have the book anywhere except at the dinner table. And then when we're at the dinner table, we're all going to be talking to each other.
So, okay, well, let's get back on monsters and whatnot. What do you think the best evidence? Let's talk about Bigfoot. What do you think the best evidence for Bigfoot, or doesn't it matter to you? Like, is it the eyewitnesses? Is it the Patterson film? What does somebody like you feel is important?
Well, in the one hand, it kind of doesn't matter to me because, number one, where do I even begin? It doesn't matter to me because Bigfoot is real. It just depends on what kind of real Bigfoot is, like sounds kind of cheesy, but Bigfoot lives in our heads and our hearts, if nothing else. I would argue that every other paranormal discipline, ufology, parapsychology, with the exception of psi, but all the other sort of things that are really interested in sort of like other intelligences, the Bigfoot stuff is the gold standard of evidence. And that's sort of, again, the ironic thing is that I've really, sort of taken an interest in sort of the paranormal aspects of Bigfoot. But at the same time, like the first book that I'll press into people's hands is Legend Meets Science, because that work is just so incredible. It is the gold standard from the DNA work, from the mid-tarsal breaks and dermal ridges. I mean, like these are cool things.
Well, it's the attempt at taking it serious. So
for me, like my own personal threshold, I think where my own personal threshold was kind of met was with the Bossberg tracks, and just like why you would make those as remote as they were, as specifically injured as they were, and like was Bossberg a ghost town by that town? I think it might have been. I mean, so like just the sort of like who's getting anything out of this if it's a hoax,
Yeah, exactly.
And the specific, injuries. And I just think all of that stuff, all the casts and stuff are just like, they're so compelling.
Well, do you think, okay, but for somebody who thinks that Bigfoot may belong in some strange realm, do you think that they're metaphysical? Like when they're here, they're very physical. They poop, they eat, they hunt, or do you think that's maybe not what they have to do? I mean, what are your thoughts on that? And I'm sure you don't know, but What are your thoughts?
I mean, it's the UFO and ghost question all over again, right? Like I said earlier, that I think that a lot of these things are predominantly in that sort of non-physical psychic realm, and they can sort of step over here just like we can step into that psychic realm with our own sort of latent abilities. Because UFOs leave burn marks in the ground.
And we do film them occasionally.
And yeah, so anybody who tells you that it's all one thing or all the other thing, I think is sort of misguided. And some of my favorite stories, there is a small body of attested hypnosis sessions. Regardless of what you think about hypnosis and it being a memory recovery tool, there's a small body of hypnosis sessions where people are being hypnotically regressed for their UFO sighting, and they start experiencing the physical symptoms of their UFO sighting, like conjunctivitis and a light sunburn.
Really? Oh,
yeah. And so like this is sort of coming back around to that placebo, mind over matter, consciousness question. So what do I? But I'm dancing around the question, right? Like, what do I really think Bigfoot is?
Yes, Joshua, you're dancing.
I think so. My friend and co-author Timothy Renner, with whom I wrote "Where the Footprints End," volumes 1 and 2, which are weird Bigfoot books, said something to me that I really have not been able to get out of my head, which is, he said, I think that the wild man archetype is everywhere, and it is everywhere. Every culture has a wild man, and it's so pervasive, and it speaks to such a primal part of ourselves that wherever we are, it is, and it manifests like archetypes tend to in a lot of different ways. It can manifest inside of us, but it can also exteriorize, and it exteriorizes on a spectrum, right? And on the most mundane, less dramatic end of the spectrum, it's manifesting as a strange sound in the woods, or a single rock that's thrown, or a single tree knock.
Right.
And there's this gradient that goes all the way through footprints and even flesh and blood and hair samples.
Right.
And on the rarest occasions when all the stars align, right? Or you have someone who's especially receptive to that powerful archetype, then yeah, you get a full-on Class A sighting, as the BFR would say.
So, well, let's stop right there, because that's a fascinating topic. Do you think that maybe the people that see them, that these are kind of be, do you think that has anything to do with it? In other words, if you're skeptical, you're never going to see one. If you don't believe. I've wondered that.
I was thinking about this today in the shower, actually. I was thinking about this today. It's just like how poor. Well, stay with me. It's going to be a little bit too much more TMI. How poor our data sets are, right? Like, there's probably something that if we could really track people's biometrics and beta waves and theta waves and their medical history and all these different things, we could probably find exactly what the deciding factor that makes people more receptive to this stuff is from a cohort. Like, maybe it's like people who have had vasectomies don't see Bigfoot. I don't know, like something that we could probably pin down. I can't help but think that belief comes into it, but I also think that it's got to be this real narrow band between belief and disbelief that really helps the most.
You think so? Okay.
Well, there's this book that I kind of consider my paranormal Bible, which is George P. Hansen's The Trickster and the Paranormal. It's an incredible book. It's a difficult book. It's a dense book. It kind of reads like VCR instructions, but you have to set it down every now and then. You have to set it down every now and then and think. But he makes a good point in that book that these phenomena tend to be anti-structural. They tend to all adhere to the trickster archetype, and they always kind of tend to zig when you think they're going to zag. And one of the things that he points out in there is that there is this sort of...
Well, what do you mean by that? What do you mean by that? Do you mean they come when you least expect it?
They deliberately cover their tracks. So one of the things that he talks about is this aspect of the paranormal to self-negate. And the example that he used was that you'll oftentimes have what seem to be legitimate poltergeist cases that are going off, they're popping off hot and heavy. And then by the time the parapsychologists get there, they investigate it, seems like it's all legitimate. And then by the time the media descends, all the activity, evaporates, right? Similarly, if you look at things like the placebo effect and curses and things like this, there does seem to be some sort of consciousness aspect that only that only comes to life and only genuinely manifests when there's sort of a degree of plausible deniability. Another good example of this is psychic surgery amongst certain shamanic practitioners in some cultures, where like it's obviously sleight of hand, like it is like it's they're like I pulled out this this attachment to you, and it's a chicken gizzard, right?
Right.
But the people feel better afterwards. So it's like by empowering the imagination, something genuinely strange, the imaginal, let's call it, but supernatural's fine too. By empowering the imagination, something else is allowed to come in and bridge the gap and bring about actual change, right?
Belief or change. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So can you give people advice possibly based on what you think on how to have a Bigfoot sighting or a ghost sighting or
can they tell me? Because I still haven't.
No, but you've got
I haven't had many.
You've got kind of a diarrhea theory going on there.
Yeah.
You might want to just try this, people.
Yeah, I think that. My own prescription would be to let go of the certainty fetish and to let go of having that "I told you so" moment. To just be in the moment and experience the moment and not go ahead and just turn off your cell phone. Don't have your phone on so that maybe you can snap a picture and you can go back and show people that you're not no, just be in the moment and have that
clear your mind.
I think that's part of it. Yeah, I think that's part of it. And again, this is all as if I've had a sighting. I've had some Sasquatch adjacent incidents, but I've never had a sighting myself.
Well, we're going to hear about those.
Fair enough. But that would be my bit of advice. Having said that, I've done a lot of ghost hunting recently, and of course I've done my share of Bigfoot stuff too, but I've gone in completely skeptical and nothing happens. I've gone in a wide-eyed believer, absolutely sure that something's going to happen, and nothing happens. So I really don't know which it is. I've even tried to put that pendulum, that sort of plausible deniability, self-negating, sort of that narrow window that I just talked about. I've even tried to put the pendulum of my belief right in the middle there, and I still haven't gotten much of anything. So,
well, I'm just going to share a story that I don't really like to talk about too much, but it happened. Had a witness. It was a very quick story. We were driving down 35W, heading south. The radio was on. I think the song Vincent by Don McLean was playing on the radio. It was a beautiful evening, kind of tired, just driving home, right? Just relaxed and peaceful. Like everything's just peaceful. And all of a sudden we see a shiny object up in the sky about level with the moon, and then it drops straight down like a spider on a web and headed right for my windshield. And as it got closer, we could see it was like a human being with wings. And it kept coming towards the window and closer. Finally, Yvette ducked. She hit the floor, and eventually I had to duck while I'm driving, which is, we could have rolled the car, I guess. But it all happened pretty quick. But I got a good look at it. She got a good look at it. And it looked like a bat-winged human. It's the best way I can describe it. Kind of what Lon Strickler describes these, whenever these winged things that are flying around Chicago and O'Hare. But boy, you talk about a humbling experience, because that's not like something I hope to God isn't living in the woods. But it definitely scared us. It definitely freaked us out. It's changed my life, changed her life, to the point where for her, she suffers with terrible PTSD from that.
It's profoundly affected both of you. I've talked about it enough. That
it really has.
Profoundly affected both of you.
So, but the point is, our state of mind was total relaxation. We were at peace. The mind was at peace. It was a beautiful evening. Stars were out, full moon. I mean, it was just, like life couldn't be any better type feeling. Yeah. And then that shattered it.
It's kind of funny that you mentioned this story, because I have a friend and colleague with whom I'm co-teaching a course at the California Institute for Integral Studies. And he's releasing a great book that's coming out soon called Sasquatch and the Psyche. It's great. Dr. David S.B. Mitchell, he's been in the chat.
Yeah, I know David.
Yeah, he's great. He's great. But anyway, we were talking about that story today. And I think he mentioned, is it right that the creature's wings didn't, or sorry, the whatever it was, the wings didn't flap? Is
Correct.
that right? Yeah.
No flapping.
Yeah, so
it defied physics. I mean, the way it dropped with wings open, the wings were as wide as the freeway, Joshua.
And the UFOs defy physics. The balls of light illuminate, but don't illuminate their surroundings. There's like this sort of like staged theatrical aspect to all this. But to your point about like your state of mind, I have thought about that. So there's two things that I really have been trying to keep in the back of my mind, and I'm doing an outing later this year, and I'm going to try to keep these in mind. Are y'all familiar with the Philip experiment?
The what experiment?
The Philip experiment.
No, I'm not.
It's a fascinating story. A group of Toronto parapsychologists got together, and they had the bright idea. This is directly ties into Fourth Wall Phantoms. They got together and they had the bright idea that they were going to invent a ghost. And what they did is they fabricated an entire fictional backstory biography for this person named Philip Aylesford. Completely fictional person, but they said, okay, well, Philip was serving with King Charles I, and he was a spy in the English Civil War, and they gave him all the highs and lows of a life, marriages, birth, death, I think children too. And they said, now let's see if we can have a seance and contact Philip, the fictional ghost. And we can sort of quibble about whether it came from the psychics' minds, whether it came from the parapsychologists' minds, or whether it was a tulpa, or whether it was a this or a that. But they got answers that correctly responded to questions about Philip's fictional backstory.
Okay.
So the argument is that, like, they created a ghost, right?
Is it kind of like a Ouija board kind of a thing?
Well, they were asking questions about Philip. Have we made contact with Philip? Raps in the affirmative. Philip, this, that, the other about your life. Tell us about your life, and they got sort of those answers. So, it was a parapsychological experiment. I guess it's probably about as far as sort of the Ouija board analogy goes, because they were having a full-on seance trying to contact the spirit. The only thing is the spirit was fictional. However, in the book, there's a promise I'm going somewhere. In the book called Conjuring Up Philip, it was discovered that they got better results when they decided not to be so stuffy about it, and when they decided to not take it all so seriously, right? When they were sort of embodying a more almost familial sort of relationship between each other in this group of parapsychologists.
Like kind of neutral? Is that
just relaxed, happy, having fun, really sort of
lighthearted,
being invested in people's lives, right? Similarly, I would add to that, there's a great UFO abduction by Herbert Schirmer in Nebraska. Can't remember the year, but it's a very well attested UFO case. A friend of mine's done a lot of work on it, and there's this thing that one of his alien abductors said to him, and it's an apocryphal quote, so who knows if it was really said, but supposedly he said, what do you want from us? And he was thinking they were going to say, we want to take over your planet, or we want to hybridize with you, or any number of things. And they said, we want you to believe, but not too much. And that's the weirdest thing that stuck with me. But if you put that in context with like this idea that the Philip experiment really thrived when there was sort of a lighthearted atmosphere in the room, and you put that also in dialogue with the late Jeff Ritzmann. I don't know if you know that name. He used to have a podcast called Paratopia with Jeremy Vaney.
Joshua, there hasn't been one thing you've said that I know.
Okay, sorry. Sorry. Jeffrey Ritzmann, Jeffrey Ritzmann, a fantastic thinker. He's passed away. But he had a podcast called Paratopia. And he had sort of he was a lifelong experiencer and had some pretty dramatic experiences that affected him personally. But he sort of came up with a prescription for seeing paranormal phenomena.
Well, that's interesting.
And he said that, you pick a relatively isolated place, and you try to like not go out there. You kind of go out there around the same, keeping kind of a schedule, but like really randomizing your arrival and departure times. And maybe this day you won't make it, just being anti-structural with the whole thing. Right. He says, but you always go out there with someone that, you care enough about to have deep discussions. And you go out there and you sit on the roof of your car, or you sit in some lawn chairs, and you just look up at the sky, and you just start talking about you start talking about the meaning of life and reality and God, and you just sort of like take your mind off of it and you sort of foster this sort of gratitude and awe. And he said that, like, by his estimation, a lot of people had an experience from that. But the interesting thing was that in his sort of anecdotal collecting of the experiences of people who'd done this, that what they got was not always what they thought they'd get or what they wanted. Like, so they go out wanting to see a Bigfoot, and instead they get, like, a spectral woman in white floating out of the forest or something. So
that's a great story, because I can remember me and Yvette doing that. This is before she got traumatized. Yeah, we would just go like way out in the forest there's a cornfield. We'll just park there in the middle of the night, turn the headlights off, and just sit there and talk. And then things would happen. Like we would see red orbs darting around and just weird stuff, And so I kind of know. I mean, I'm relating to what you're saying.
Well, I'm not being salacious about this, but there are plenty of sightings of people having sightings of strange things at lovers' lanes. So there's something about this. True. There's something about this personal connection and this introspection and tapping into these deeper emotions that I think might, if you don't think it's a big ape, which it's fine if you do, I hope it is, so I can say I told you so to some people, but like if you think that Bigfoot might be stranger, maybe that's the prescription for it. So I'm going out into the forest with a couple of my friends and soon towards the end of October, and hopefully we'll get something to happen. Oh yeah, by the way, in response to the question in the chat, like that's a really good question. Like, how can you say that it wasn't psi abilities from the people who were conducting the seance answering those questions? Yeah, I mean that's definitely up for debate.
Right.
But the point is that something about a fictional story coaxed out something about the fictional story coaxed out measurable, recordable phenomena. Really,
I have kind of a diarrhea theory that I don't think I've talked about here, and I can't really back this up. This is just based on some really broad correlations and observations. It seems to me that there's a pretty broad correlation between city people and country people, or rural people, Midwestern people versus city people, academics, that kind of thing. And it's kind of a fringe theory, but one of the things that city people are going to have more of is fluoride in their water. And people are talking more and more about the pineal gland. And that's something I think about often is there just seems to be a correlation between people who have less fluoride, their pineal gland is going to work better. They could very well be more open to seeing stuff, experiencing stuff.
They have their own well.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you mentioned that, Jeff, because there are some things that sort of immediately kindles in my own mind. I mean, I'm not entirely convinced that electromagnetic interference doesn't hinder this stuff more than it helps it. The ghost people will say, oh, maybe it gives them energy. But at the same time, maybe that's why we don't see more of this stuff in cities where you have light everywhere. I mean, one of the things that the late Rosemary Ellen Guiley used to prescribe whenever people were suffering from a jinn infestation was she would say, leave the TV on. It seems to interfere. And sure enough, I mean, what do you hear about? Like, you want Bigfoot off your property, put up some game cams, right? Like maybe it's something about electricity that's preventing this stuff. Similarly, I've thought, like, why do people in West Virginia have so much activity? Like, it seems like every holler has its own dedicated cryptid. A lot of those communities are living in a way that's much more aligned with the way we used to live. So like tight-knit family groups in isolation. Sometimes they don't have, telephones, or they don't have reliable access to electricity and stuff. And I think that something about living in that sort of more simplified state might help sort of bring these things out too. You expressed earlier your love for C.S. Lewis. There's a great bit of correspondence between C.S. and Tolkien, where Tolkien is saying that, maybe the reason that we don't see elves and fairies nowadays, this is Tolkien writing Lewis, maybe the reason we don't see elves and fairies nowadays is because, like, we're not part of the land in the sense that we're not eating stuff from the land. Like, you wake up and you're having tomatoes from Italy and you're having, a sausage from Germany. Like, you're not eating for millennia, for untold generations. We were eating stuff that came within like a couple of miles of where we live.
Yeah.
And now, and modern human beings don't do that anymore. And maybe that's the reason we don't see this.
Two things about that. One, backing up to the Appalachia and the haulers. Another thing about those areas is they don't get very good TV or radio reception. Right. They're isolated from radio waves and electromagnetic waves quite a bit. And another thing that you just sparked is we're finding out that the local the pollen and the stuff like that gets into like honey and the local things in your local food, it's just better for you. The local. I'm trying to word this better. The stuff that's in your local air, the pollens, the chemicals in your local air are going to better defend you against the bad stuff in your area too. Does that make sense? Your immune system is your immune system in a certain area is going to be better helped by one of the best examples is honey, local honey, stuff like that.
We try to buy. I mean, it's expensive, but we try to buy like just some local honey for the boys. Like whenever they're ill, we give them they're coughing stuff. We're like, have some of the local honey and see if that helps. So I think that there is something about like the encroach of modernity on pushing this stuff out and pushing this stuff to the fringes, and that's something that you see in a lot of the fairy literature too. Is that there's a story that goes all the way back to Chaucer, and you'll still find like more recent sightings of fairies today that talk about this. But it's this exodus of the fairies, the idea that the fairies are leaving to go back into the wilderness because they've been pushed out. And of course, depending on which source you're using, they've been pushed out by Christianity, or they've been pushed out by industrialization, or they've been pushed out by the expansion of cities and stuff. But it is this idea that like we are pushing these things, to the fringes. And so like that may be what well be it. It's not that, it's not that certain areas have more or less Bigfoot. It's just that the conditions aren't conducive to it in terms of, all this other junk that we have in our environment.
Another thing to keep in mind too is, because you just talked about Chaucer and whatnot, common misconception is people think that 1,000 years ago people weren't as smart. Well, 1,000 years ago humans were just as smart as they are now. They had less technology. They had less access to education, but human beings have been exactly this smart for a very long time. And if their head isn't cluttered up with a lot of other stuff, they're not busy watching TV, and they're going to listen more to the natural world, and they're going to listen more to what their great grandpa said. And people in the past knew a lot of stuff that we don't know now. They were just as smart as we are now.
Yeah, I mean, I would argue that in some regards they were more intelligent because we've had to outsource so many other we have outsourced so many other aspects of cognition, right?
Absolutely.
From calculators are kind of looking kind of tame compared to the stuff that we're outsourcing nowadays. But I mean, like just the idea of the techniques by which to fell a tree, and the angles that you should cut at to make sure that it falls in a certain direction. That's something that we haven't quite lost that knowledge, because I know some people who still use those particular cuts to bring down trees. But like, that's something that was discovered through great cost and trial and error,
Yeah.
And it's something that we just don't have to think about that much.
And it was broadly known by a lot of people at one time. I mean, there's a lot that was just broadly known. It was just taken for granted as part of your everyday knowledge. And now most people don't know. I have no idea.
Yeah, I'm really glad that you said that. Yeah, I mean, we should have more reverence for the generations that came before, because they've all the things that they endured. It's impressive.
Yes.
Is there any thoughts or historical evidence of forests being almost a being or a conscious being that's manifesting Bigfoot? And you know what I'm talking about? Like the forest, they keep finding out how it's like a supercomputer with all the mycelium communicating and all the weird things going on. One plant a mile away is helping a plant over there a mile away. Is it possible that the forest is some kind of consciousness that's manufacturing these fairies and things like that? Just to reach out to communicate with us on some level.
I'm really sympathetic to that. I mean, if you look at the research that's just if you want to go down a rabbit hole, look at the research that's gone into forest bathing lately. And how it can improve your cancer outcomes and all sorts of things,
Yeah, they're saying that one trip in a forest, even 5 minutes, affects you for 4 days.
Yes, yeah, it's impressive. And I think that You know, I mean, I know that Ron Moorhead has talked about the idea of like Bigfoot, like literally sort of coming out of trees. I've collected a lot of stories myself of people who say that they like, you know, they can freeze and look just like a dead log or a tree stump or something. You know, I'm not saying I necessarily believe or disbelieve that. It's just that that's
I just wonder if there's something that ever occurred to you or just thought about.
Yeah, I mean, no, I think an argument can be made that, like, you know, Bigfoot. The reason, so Bigfoot's everywhere, right? I'm like, and by that I mean, if I'd got in my car right now and drove down the road 3 miles, I'd probably see 4 Bigfoot bumper stickers. Like, it's never been more of a popular image, right? And I think that like a lot of what we're seeing, the surge in popularity of just Bigfoot in general, is something is really nagging at us to get back to these more natural ways. You know, the forest is calling us. This just happens to be the avatar of the forest is Bigfoot. You know,
it's a good avatar.
You know,
it just occurred to me too. You know, we've talked about grounding. That's kind of a new thing. People talk about grounding, walking barefoot in the woods. Well, what animal is going to be better at grounding than Bigfoot?
Right, nice large surface
feet.
area. It
doesn't have an arch in its foot. It's going to have huge flat feet. Maybe that's why it's got big feet. I don't know, but it's going to be more grounded than we are for sure.
Yeah, Steve Kreschel, who was my camera guy for Legend Means Science. He did a big documentary on grounding where he even brings up some of the Edgar Mitchell up to his place.
Oh, wow.
And he grounds the entire town and to see how it's improved their house. It's a really interesting doc. It's on YouTube. It's Steve Kreschel, German spelling, and you can find it. It's really interesting.
I think it's just called. Is it called The Grounding? Is that what it's called?
Yeah, The Grounding. That's Steve. Yeah, he's a good friend. He's absolutely nuts. This guy. I actually had to go to New York with him, and oh my God, he was just like going there with Crocodile Dundee. Maybe in an elevator full of people in New York and Manhattan, and he'd be introducing himself to everybody.
Here's the
great guy.
Here's the thing about the people who are nuts is that we don't tend to learn as much from the orthodox folks, do we? You know, it's always the people on the fringes, and like doesn't mean that everybody on the fringes changes the world, but the only people who change the world are the people on the fringes.
Yeah. Absolutely. I got out of the box thinking, lateral thinking for sure.
I am so glad I didn't meet you earlier, Joshua.
Okay.
I think I would have spent too many hours asking you questions over the last God knows how many years.
Well,
I love the way you think. And,
I'm not a guru or a smart.
No, but you've thought about so many angles about all this stuff that has so few answers.
Well, I appreciate it.
I really,
and you're very
I'm just glad I didn't meet you earlier because.
Yeah, well, and you know, I would sort of pick that up and toss the ball back to you guys.
I would have made you my little brother, and who's the genius. I would have been calling you every day, going, "What do you think about this?"
Well, I'm gonna pick up the ball and toss it back to you guys because not every person that I talk to can tease that sort of I can have these sort of conversations with. You know what I mean?
That's good.
You know, yeah. I mean, it's
we pride ourselves on that.
No, it's really God, you're fascinating.
Well, it's been a lot of fun. I mean,
because sometimes I think I'm sitting in my garage or whatever, and I'm like, I have nobody to talk to about this crap. And then somebody will see me on Facebook and call me at 3 a.m. and I answer.
I gave you my phone number.
Oh yeah. Well, you're gonna regret it, too, Joshua.
Harass me whenever you want to. Yeah.
You're gonna regret it, Joshua.
I don't know about that.
You know what I've got to do? I got to get like you and David Mitchell. I've asked David. He was working on like his book. Is this book done?
It's David. Don't get mad at me if I misspeak, but it is finished. He has a publisher lined up. It's just
good.
I think it's just a matter of getting it printed and out the door, and it's wonderful. It's a wonderful book.
He's a deep thinker, man.
He is, yeah. I mean, I have so much respect and I just love that guy. Yeah.
Yeah, he reached out to me. Oh, God, it's been like 2-3 years ago, and we've been, friends. And he's got one of those brains that's just so
He really does, yeah.
So patient and so thoughtful about every aspect of things. And it's just like he's such a rare person.
He really is. He's an absolute gem of a human being. I was so fortunate to meet him. My friend, my mentor, Greg Bishop, did a lecture on UFOs and art in Athens, Georgia. And that was the first time that I met Diana Pasolka, and my friend David Metcalf was there, and David Mitchell was there. Yeah. So I remember just like wanting to talk to David all night. Yeah. So it's been a fast friendship.
Gosh. So do you think these mysteries are going to come to an end where they're not mysteries anymore? Or do you think they're just going to stay mysteries?
I don't want answers. I want a better understanding.
Yeah.
Because what is we've talked about so much throughout this talk, throughout this discussion, we've placed such a high value on curiosity, right?
Yes.
And to me, once you get answers, like the curiosity ends, right? So again, that inner 12-year-old, right? The inner 12-year-old wants us to catch a Bigfoot, and it wants the UFOs to land, and it wants, everyone to have a ghost in their house, right? But the other part of me, the part of me that realizes that if we're content with answers and we're content with explanations, we don't grow, we don't progress. No, I hope not. I really hope not. And part of that's because I think that it is all a personal journey. That's one of my biggest complaints that remains about the UFO disclosure movement specifically, and you can sort of extrapolate this to the parapsychology stuff and the cryptozoology stuff. Like, you don't need somebody to tell you this. Like, you go find your own disclosure, right? Like, go have your own experience.
Well, what if the purpose of these things is to just fuel curiosity, and there's never going to be an answer because whoever they are laughing all the way to the bank going, this is all just to get you all talking and thinking about life, there won't be an answer.
I mean, to sort of borrow some metaphors from Fourth Wall Phantoms, like they just might be plot devices in our lives, and they're spurring that sort of character growth that we all need to go through. And I know that doesn't sound appealing to a lot of the people who won't.
It's not.
But if you can make peace with that, I think that there's something really beautiful and elegant in that.
Yeah, I mean, it is elegant because it's crossed my mind, and I'm thinking maybe this is all by just design we need this mystery in our lives and this mysterious things, and it's very real. I mean, when I say mysterious, I've had my sightings, so I know they're real, but yet I don't know what they are. I'm trying to get answers, and I don't think that's going to hurt anything. And I think, by even just raising the bar, you get more people involved in the curiosity factor, which helps humanity on some small level. But yet, it would be cool to just solve these. I mean, wouldn't it be cool if the UFO thing just completely, we knew everything? Do you think that could ever happen, or maybe not? I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I think that by design, these things are always going to be just ahead of and just behind us, right? I mean, I think that you could say you could make a case that Bigfoot is the way we used to be, and the aliens are the way we're going to be, right?
Yeah. Opposite. They're opposite.
Yeah, Bigfoot, earthy, large, hairy, bestial, underground. The UFO is like this transcendent sort of thing, pulling our eyes skyward toward the underworld is the past, and the heavens are the future, right?
Well, wouldn't us living in some kind of a computer simulation or a matrix or whatever you want to call it, then we're not going to ever get those answers because we're not even. We're just part of this simulation.
Well, it's too late. It's way too late in the evening to have me complain about simulation. But I the problems that I have with it are that it's just the simulation theory idea is just another reinvention of this age-old trope that we've seen pulled into the paranormal since day one, which is like, oh, maybe we can use our greatest technology as a metaphor to explain this aspect of human experience. And it's like, well, no, human experience is human experience.
Yeah.
And as Dr. Kreipel pointed out to me, like one of the problems with simulation theory is that there's no real opportunity for transcendence. And I have to believe that there is a way in which each of us can transcend. And I'll leave that open-ended for what that means for every person, right?
Yeah.
I'm not necessarily saying we all need to plug in we all need to become cyborgs or anything like that, but I think that there's a transcendent part of us. And I think that the stuff like simulation theory renders the mystical mechanistic, and I'm always hesitant about things like that. But at the same time, like as a metaphor, the idea that there's sort of an illusory quality to this world. Yeah, I mean, we will not get answers from that. And I sound like a Hallmark card the older I get.
I know, but
the journey it's not the destination, it's the journey, you know?
But there could also, the weird thing is, you go, there could be flesh and blood Bigfoots. There could be supernatural. I mean,
combination.
The UFOs could be a combination of a million
things. That's what I was going to say. Is you're never going to have an answer because there's never going to be definitively one thing.
Right?
Yeah. You know what I mean? We could find out that there's 100% smoking gun proof of physical Bigfoot. And there will still be stories about Bigfoot. Well, there will be.
It's interesting you say this because I've made this argument before, but my good friend Mike Cleland, if you don't know him, he has done a lot of work on UFOs and synchronicities and owls. People who have very well-timed owl sightings in conjunction with UFOs.
I had that guy, the gentleman on that wrote a book about that.
Yeah, okay. Well, but here's the thing about Mike. Like, Mike knows that there are real flesh and blood owls too, right? But there are also weird owls that seem somehow tied to the UFO phenomenon. So I've played with the idea that, like, what if there are flesh and blood Bigfoot, and this other thing likes to sort of use that imagery as well?
Sure.
Yeah, that's a great diarrhea theory.
That was straight out of $6 Million Man. There's two different kinds of Bigfoot.
Yeah, that's all I got is diarrhea theories, honestly.
No,
I'm a diarrhea merchant.
No, it's just like, my parents used to call them Johnny questions and Johnny answers when I was young. It's like they're like, well, that's a Johnny question. Like there's no answer. I'm like, okay. So can you share one of your supernatural experiences on some level?
Goodness.
You haven't done that. And I've never heard you talk about it before.
Yeah, well, I just so these things have sort of a half-life, right? Like in the moment you're really impressed by them, and then like as time goes by, you start talking yourself out of them.
Well, that's fine.
The most lasting thing.
Tell us the one you haven't told anybody, Joshua.
Oh man, the one I haven't told anybody. Oh Lord. I don't know if there's one, or if I have told the ones that I haven't told anybody are really okay. Here's a good synchronicity, because it's like it's most people don't care about synchronicities, but this is like top shelf synchronicity, right? And I've only talked about this like once or twice. I was dating a young lady. This would have been probably 2008ish or so. I don't know. And she was an oboe player, and she had gone to undergrad in Cincinnati. These are important things. And she had a name that was like her first name and last name sounded like two first names. So let's call her Jackie Laura. Okay, let's call her Jackie Laura. Her first name and the last name both sounded like first names.
Okay.
Jackie Laura, oboe player from Cincinnati. It's towards the end of the relationship. It's very apparent that this is not going to last. We liked each other. It ended up being a very, amicable breakup. But it was clear that like I was coming home from this gig in Austin. And it was very clear that like this was it, right? And so I'm just dedicating a lot of thought and energy, and I'm already a couple steps into the grieving process, right? And I'm sitting in the plane on the tarmac, waiting to go back, and I know that this entire conversation is looming over me. And I'm sitting there doing a crossword puzzle because I'm an old man at heart, And this all happens within the space of about at least a minute. Honestly, it feels more like 30 seconds, but everything I'm going to tell you here happens within the space of a minute. And I'm obsessing over this relationship with Jackie Lara,
Okay.
who plays oboe, went to Cincinnati. A 4-letter word for a woodwind instrument in my crossword puzzle. I'm like, well, that's oboe, O-B-O-E. And then as soon as I finish that, a ticket falls from the passenger in front of me at my feet and sort of lands, falls and sort of flitters down to my feet. And the guy in the seat turns around to me and he's like, hey, can you, he says, oh, I dropped my ticket. And so I pick it up and it's his final destination is Cincinnati, oboe, Cincinnati. And then he says, hey, would you mind handing that back to me? Sorry about that. And he puts his arms up on the chair to look at me. And he has 2 sleeves and they're Jackie Lara, my girlfriend's name, because she has 2, sounds like 2 first names. And, I remarked to him and he's like, oh yeah, they're my daughter's names. And I handed him back his ticket. But like the four very salient aspects of her identity, including her whole name, were presented to me over the course of like 30 seconds or a minute. Wow. As I'm getting ready to go back and break up with her. Yeah, I've never experienced a synchronicity that's that many things stacked and layered. And like, look, thank you for sitting through that, because like other people's synchronicities are like other people's dreams. Like they mean more to the person who had them because you had to be there, right? But like that was a stacking of so many things at once that it was like, this is uncanny.
Have you had many of those kinds of things that you've just forgotten about, Joshua?
Probably. I recently started taking.
You should notice those.
I recently started keeping a list of things that have happened to me.
Good.
Because some of them have been sort of those, just one of those things that you sort of let sort of fall by the wayside. So that's one I haven't overshared. My most impressive experience in terms of the paranormal was with that girlfriend. We were at Waverly Hills Sanitarium, and I was being very cheeky about everything. This is before I was involved in any of this weird stuff. I had an interest, but I wasn't involved. And we were on the 4th floor, and he runs up behind me. She's like, I just saw this thing that was going along the walls and the ceiling, and apparently that's a thing that happens on the 4th floor. But I'm being real cheeky about it. Like, I'm doing my Hellboy act. I'm being like, yeah, come out here, you ghosties. I'll get you. Just being a smart A, right? And I get about within 10 feet of this door, heavy metal door. I cannot emphasize this. It's like a bulkhead, right? Heavy metal door that leads to the stairwell. And that door goes from completely shut to being slammed open so hard it hits the wall behind it. Like somebody on the other side kicked this thing. Like, bam, right in my face. And I screamed like a girl. And like other weird things happened that night too. Waverly sort of shaped like a big, wide sort of U. And every time we get to one of the corners on one of the floors, I can't remember which, it looked exactly like somebody was sitting around the corner with a TV on, that blue glow. That sort of, we'd come around the corner and there will be nothing there. But I remember distinctly, because we stayed there all night, like we're in the parking lot getting saged and stuff as the sun's coming up. And I remember distinctly going back to the house we were staying at and just staring up at the ceiling and being like, oh, this stuff's real. Like that's the moment that you don't get the toothpaste back in the tube, It's the moment where you're like, there's nothing really to explain this other than that. So I have a couple of ghost things. I have some. I would really love to see a Bigfoot or UFO, but my Bigfoot stuff's all like sound stuff and some other stuff.
Well,
like
tell us some stories.
I have about 3 Bigfoot experiences. The first one was on my honeymoon. I was being a drunken idiot the last night. We had rented this cabin up at Blue Ridge, Georgia, and I was. The last night, I was in the hot tub and I was drunk and I was yelling like a Bigfoot, doing the Bigfoot yells across the valley. And the next day is we're getting ready to go home. And my wife takes like her purse or something light out to the car. She comes back. She's like, why'd you do that? I said, why did I do what? She was like, why'd you do that? And I said, look, we're like a week into this marriage. Like, let's not have our first big argument right now, right? And she's like, The Rock. I'm like, what are you talking about? And I used to have, this was like 3 iPods, not even iPhones or iPods ago, right? I used to have a photo of it, but it was behind my driver's side rear tire was a rock like about this big that was just like wedged behind that tire. And it wasn't a super isolated cabin, but it was up like, an incredibly steep driveway that was probably an eighth to a quarter of a mile long. There was a part of the mountainside that was across the sort of gravel parking lot, but it was all like red clay rocks and it couldn't have rolled that far. If somebody was playing a prank, wouldn't they have put it on my hood? Or like, why would you come up if you're going to prank me in a more obvious way, right? So I don't know what to make of that. Which is why I call it sort of a Sasquatch adjacent thing.
So she heard the rock hit?
Nobody heard anything. We just we woke up in the morning.
Oh,
the rock was wedged behind my tire.
How big was it?
About this big, maybe basketballish or a little bit smaller. And it's like I did not drive over this rock. I think we probably went out to eat the night before, but like if I had driven over this rock, it would have been one of those things.
Yep.
So there's that. My friend Timothy Renner has a research site that he calls Site 7. And within 30 seconds of my first time getting there, it was all kind of downhill from here, but within 30 seconds of my first time getting there, we closed the doors. Our eyes are just adjusting to the darkness. And we hear a snort and a shuffle. I don't know. Maybe 50 feet away from us or something through the leaves, just shuffling away. I don't feel really comfortable with identifying quadruped versus biped footfalls. But Tim said he thought it was pretty sure it was 2 feet, and it was not a whitetail snort. It just wasn't. I know that much. It was just something like huffing, like it was not happy that we were there. And then the last sort of Bigfoot adjacent thing to me is kind of my favorite because it feels like it was tailored for me because it's a weird Bigfoot thing, right? I was out with Scott and Sheila Granger up here in North Georgia, and we had to get to this location. We had to drive about 15 minutes over private property, so like there's nobody out there. And I'm with a group of some other people. And we got 3 cars there. We're all around the campfire. Everyone is accounted for around the campfire. And some other people are talking, and I'm just sort of sitting there listening. And I hear a car door slam. And I look at one of the girls that's across the fire from me, and I said, "Did you just hear?" And she goes, "A car door slam?" "Yeah, I did." It was not us. Nobody in our group. I can't fathom anybody else being anywhere around us. There were, we were practically in the middle of the only road in and out, but there was a very distinct sound of a car door. And like, I love that because it feels like it was tailor made for me, because like, that's one of the things that John Keel said that he always noticed in UFO and quote unquote monster sightings, where the sounds of babies crying and the sounds of car doors slamming. Yeah. I think Ron got that up at the Sierra site too. You know? It's like everybody who was with us didn't really get it, but I got it because I was like, "Oh,
it's more impressive when you're up at the peak of a mountain.
Oh yeah,
there could be no cars there. Then it's even more impressive." Yeah.
But well, I mean, this, like I said, I will reiterate, this is very isolated, and it was across about 15 minutes of an unmaintained road, so I cannot imagine that there was another car out there. So,
gosh,
yeah. It was odd. It was enough for me to take note of it. So,
well, what scares you? I mean, there's got to be something that scares you. I'm scared of everything, Joshua.
Yeah.
So, I mean, did you get scared would you be scared to walk through the woods at night alone?
It's all situational, right? No, I'm not, because like I had this realization that's like the woods at night are just the woods in the daytime, but they're dark. And I know that sounds so like silly and stupid, but like I've acclimated very well to the woods at night. Most of my fears are situational. So I've got a window right up here. I've got a window right up here above my computer. If I were to open the blinds and there were to be a face like right on the other side of that, I don't care what it is, a face of a person or a Bigfoot or an alien or whatever, like that would scare the pants off me, right? So like most of my fears they're not like topic specific, they're more situational specific. Yeah. That and that, and here's the other thing. Like, I've always thought about, like, going to some places and like, oh, I'll bring a rock back from the TNT area in West Virginia and stuff like this. But like, then you hear stories about people who take rocks from places and they have bad luck and stuff. And like, I can handle a ghost in my house because I brought back a souvenir from a paranormal location. I can't handle financial ruin or a loved one getting terminally ill or something like that. So that's the kind of thing that scares me more.
Have you ever had anything take along, come home with you? Any ghost
knock
activity?
Knock on wood, not yet.
No.
We did have a very interesting moment when the boys were a little bit younger in our household. There would be these thumps throughout the house at night after we put them down to bed, and they were still in their cribs.
Loud ones?
Baby monitor on, not the boys. Loud, up, deep. I wouldn't say loud, but I'd say deep,
Okay.
And it was recurring. We had a pest control guy come in, looked in the attic, looked in all the hidey holes, and said that he didn't really see anything that was indicative of rodent activity. My wife couldn't sleep one night, and so she went out to our house isn't quite a split level house, but it's kind of got that sort of vibe in terms of the layout. And she went out to the top of the short stairs that are just right there at the front door, and she just couldn't sleep, and she was just sitting there. And she said that it sounded like somebody was trying to bang the door in, like somebody outside was trying to bang the door to get inside.
Oh.
Scare the snot out of her. Now she later learned that 5 of her 6 cousins, the granddaughters, 5 of the 6 of them were all awake at that same time, and that was around the same time that her grandmother died.
Mm.
Now, that sounds pretty cut and dry, but at the same time, I had a very weird dream, and my dream life is not especially vivid, but I had a dream that I was upstairs in my family's home, and above the sink in our kitchen is a space that's very similar to about space above the sink in our kitchen. Not necessarily a cupboard, but like a sort of just you can lift it up, you can stash and stuff up there. And I was in the kitchen of my childhood home upstairs with this like 7.5 foot tall black gentleman. And I said, what's your name? And he said, my name's Shibalba. And he says, I want you to put licorice up above the sink. It's like, okay. I woke up the next morning and I was like, okay, well, Shibalba's the Mayan underworld. Why didn't he tell me that? And I'm like, oh, that's right. Like, if spirits, you can control a spirit if you have its name. Like, so of course he was giving me like, a sort of pseudonym, right? And so I sat there in bed and I was like, do I put licorice above the sink? And then I said to myself, Josh, you've been having weird thumps in the house. If you were writing about someone who had this dream and didn't put licorice above the sink, you'd think they were an idiot. So I did that. And that at the same time as my wife's revelation, it just went away. Those thumps in the house no longer happen, even though the boys are older and much more likely to turn over. So I don't know what that was,
So if you were walking around your house and there was something big or something little, what would scare you more, the little thing?
Oh, the little
thing. Big thing. Yeah, me too.
Yeah, the little thing. Because it's that same thing of like, I'm not afraid of like lizards, but I don't want a lizard in my house because like it can just sort of like latch onto my neck when I'm not looking and freak me out, Yeah, so the little things. And and honestly, with all my interest in fairy folklore and stuff, like I have a healthy respect for the little people. So
do you believe in those things? My mom used to tell me stories. She claimed that she would have interactions with the fairy folk or whatever when she was young, not that young, but young. And she told me lots of stories that she said were real. So I'm like, whoa.
I love that body of belief because you'll find it pretty much all over the world. I have become convinced that it's pretty indistinguishable from the UFO phenomenon.
Really?
Which is not, again, I've sort of alluded to this sort of similar attitude a couple of times, but I'm not saying that UFOs are fairies, and I'm not saying fairies are aliens, right? I'm saying that, like, there is this thing that we've been interacting with that likes to wear different masks. But, like, the sort of points of commonality that exist between fairies and alien occupants, I mean, it's pretty staggering. Little men in green became little green men, paralysis, levitation, brandishing wands. Oftentimes the fairies would be ruled over by a fairy king or queen who was human height, whereas the rest of the fairies would be short. You see that same thing in a lot of with the Greys and a lot of these alien abductions. But a couple of things that really sold me on it. The first one was missing time. In alien abductions, well, if you went to fairyland, you'd think you were only there for an hour and you were there for days, or in some of the more dramatic stories, you'd be there for like generations. So that seems very similar to the missing time phenomenon. But the thing that really sold me, the thing where I was like, okay, I'm done. I think these are the same thing. You all are familiar with the sort of trope of alien implants, right? The idea that they implant something under your skin to track you or to monitor you. And some of these have been removed, and it's always like a bit of ceramic or a bit of glass that's gotten under someone's skin. There's not really a smoking gun with it being technology. Well, did you know that the words blast, blister, and blustery all share the same Germanic root? And this makes it rather logical that if you offended the fairies, they might inflict you with something called the fairy blast that came on a blustery, windy day and gave you a blister. And guess what would be in this blister? Any number of things, but mostly trash. Bits of bone, hair, teeth, glass. Basically, it's basically it's
foreign object.
It's closely analogous to the alien implant sort of thing. And so that, coupled with about probably 24 other points that I've correlated over the years, and that Jacques Vallée correlated with Passport to Magonia, has kind of left me convinced that like there's something similar going on here. That's a Venn diagram that overlaps quite a bit. So in that sense, yeah, I mean, I do believe in the fairies, and I believe that I suspect that they manifest in a way that's most culturally apparent to whoever's seeing them.
Yeah, every brain's gonna have a different key to its dark spots.
Right. Yeah. And if you look at sort of the UFO phenomenon, it's been updating its software periodically. You got the airships in the turn of the century, and you got the flying saucers and the black triangles. And nowadays we have drones. Like UFOs have completely sort of syncretized that. They've adopted the imagery of drones, I think, a lot. So I think that if the craft seem to do that, the occupants probably do too. And there's something that was happening a lot in the 50s and 60s, where like you're in America, you were getting a lot of like space brothers and sisters, and in Latin America, you were getting like little hairy dwarves, and like over in like the Eastern Bloc, you were getting like robots and stuff. So it's always seemed kind of like a culturally dependent phenomenon in terms of like, yes, there is something there, but how it appears to you, whether in terms of like the witnesses grafting something onto it, or the entities themselves projecting something into their heads, whatever the case may be, that aspect of it seems very much culturally dependent.
C.S. Lewis would agree with you. I hate to bring this up, but we're creeping up on 3 hours here.
Yep. We gotta wind it up. So, is your wife and you pretty well synced up on all these topics?
Oh, she keeps it. It's not even at arm's length. She keeps it at like 3 arms length. I mean, she sees that it makes me happy.
Okay, but does she share the interest?
No, not really.
Okay.
Yeah. It's I kind of don't quite understand that aspect. I mean, to be fair to her, our marriage was kind of the bait and switch. In terms of this was not what I thought I'd be doing when we got married. It wasn't until about 2 years, and then I attached my name to my first book, and then after that, like, you've been branded with the scarlet letter. So, but she's become more interested in but it wouldn't take much. But like, I think I need that grounding influence in my life, because as you can tell, I can kind of spiral out into outer space, and she's my tether to bring me back down to Earth.
Well, that's good. Well, that's good. Yeah, you guys sound like you make a good team then. Where can do you want to just run through a quick list of your books real quick and tell people where they can, best get your books? Some people like them to go to Amazon, some to your own website.
Yeah, sure. No, that's great. So yeah, Fourth Wall Phantoms is the latest one, which is taking a look at fact and fiction bleeding over. Do I need to wait for each cover, or
no,
should I
we've got.
Okay.
I think we have.
I got a couple loaded up.
He's got a whole bunch of.
My first book was A Trojan Feast: The Food and Drink Offerings of Aliens, Fairies, and Sasquatch. That's from 2015. My second book was The Brimstone Deceit, which is all about smells in the paranormal. A third of the book is dedicated to spirit smells. A third of the book is dedicated to UFO smells, and a third of the book is dedicated to Bigfoot smells.
Wow.
I don't think to date anybody's written more about the Bigfoot smells than that.
That's interesting. I need to talk to you about that one.
Oh, yeah, I mean it's interesting. There's a lot of different options. This was kind of before I was fully on the paranormal Bigfoot train too, but there are a lot of different ways I tried to cover all the different explanations and all the different scholarship that I could find at the time.
Wow.
So, and then, there's some essay collections that I was part of too. So I won't necessarily mention those because we might be here a while, but, Thieves in the Night, A Brief History of Supernatural Child Abduction, is all about taking a look at the changeling phenomenon and how that's sort of echoed in the UFO alien abduction narratives. Then my two books that I co-authored with Timothy Renner, Where the Footprints End, Volumes 1 and 2, which is all the weird, high strangeness Bigfoot stories. Doug, I think you're mentioned in a couple of those. So, and then in 2022, that was my 3-volume. So when people ask me how many books I have, I don't really know what to say, because some of them were conceived as one book, and some of them it was an essay collection, and I was the editor on it. So it's kind of always awkward. But Ecology of Souls is one book that got split into 2, that got split into 3, split into 2 because it was so long, split into 3 because I needed just a separate volume just for endnotes and appendices and the bibliography. Ecology of Souls, A New Mythology of Death and the Paranormal, that was added in 2023, I believe, to required reading for PhD candidates in religion at Rice University.
And you did Wood Knocks.
I did Wood Knocks. Yep.
Where the Footprint Ends, Volume 1, Volume 2.
Yep. And then I do have a novel in case anybody really hates their lives and wants to read my novel. But my novel is Them Old Ways Never Died. It's fairy adjacent. I have a collection of essays, fairy films that I was editor on, that a lot of my friends helped me write. And then Fourth Wall Phantoms, and that brings us up to speed. So
I apologize. I had a bunch of your book covers here, but I tried to pull them up. They were all tiny images, so they wouldn't look good. But
I
apologize.
No, you're fine.
I'm looking at Amazon, and you've got a big list of books on Amazon, so that's impressive, man.
I just try to keep my head down and keep on writing.
That's great.
That's the goal.
And what do they do if they want some books autographed? What's the best way to have that happen?
I have pretty much everything in stock. So
they can go to your website and order these?
Yep. They can go to my website. There's a contact form on my website. My website is joshuacutchin.com. That's JOSHUACUTCHIN.com. I don't mark up books or I don't raise the price or anything for signing them. It's the same price you'll find online, and we do it media mail. So that's the way we do it. Yep.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, stand by just 1 second. One, I want to mention, I hope to God you'll come back, Joshua.
Absolutely. This has been a blast.
It's been so fun. So that's one thing I want to get out of the way. We're going to go and do our little weekly wisdom. It takes 2 seconds.
All right.
I'll be right back. Stand by.
Okay.
Sorry, I had it and I lost it. There we go.
It's now time for Untold Radio AM Wisdom of the Week. Remember, please enjoy your 20s, 30s, and 40s, because when you reach 50, your check engine light will likely come on. Good night from all of us at the Untold Radio Network. Also, if we have earned it, please leave us a kind comment, like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell. Thanks.
There we go. I missed that cue because I was typing this in. There's his website right there.
Oh, thank you. I think Josh will appreciate that.
Yes, thank you so much, y'all. I'm sorry if I rambled too much.
Oh, no.
Great to have you, man. It was a great conversation.
Time just goes too quick. That's the problem. I could sit here for another 3 hours.
Oh, absolutely.
Take a little pee break. I'm right back at it.
Yeah.
Well, this was an absolute highlight of the summer for me. So this was
great. You are such an amazing person. I love the way your brain works.
Yes, absolutely.
I've wanted to meet you forever, and I think I was intimidated to call you.
If you don't call me now, or at least text or something, I'm going to be disappointed. So
I'm like, oh, you're going to be sorry you met me, Joshua.
No,
okay.
And if you're ever down my way,
yeah, you're down in Georgia, right?
Yes, sir. Yep.
Yeah, and I'm up here in Minnesota.
Well, you need to find an excuse to come down to
this winter
in North Georgia and meet. I'll introduce you to Scott and Sheila.
Oh man, I'll tell you.
Are you going to Dragon Con this weekend?
No, my juice to squeeze ratio with Dragon Con kind of changed a while ago.
Mine too. I haven't gone I went for 20 years and I haven't gone for about 5.
Dragon Con. See, I've never even heard.
It's in Atlanta. It's a humongous convention. It's a blast.
It's a 4-day one, so it's just I got real spent the 2 years that I did it in a row.
Yep, I get it.
Especially dragging books back and forth.
Yeah.
That was kind of exhausting, but
we probably crossed paths there.
Well, that and I was supposed to have an event this weekend that got canceled about 2 months ago. So yeah, I'm just at home this weekend, but that's fine. I've got some other stuff coming up towards the end of the year. So
me too. Maybe next year I'll go again.
Thank you so much for taking.
It was an absolute pleasure, gentlemen. Thank you so much.
It was definitely our pleasure, and I will. Once again, I'm going to live up to my promise. I'm going to make your life miserable. I want to call and just talk about stuff.
Do it.
Okay.
So here's the thing. I can't always guarantee I'll answer, but I do guarantee I'll get back.
That's so awesome. No, you were.
The boys are 6. They're kind of a handful right now. So.
But I really was. I was intimidated to even.
No. Please don't be that way.
We appreciate you being here.
Anyhow, with that, we will be back next week with another great guest. Same time, same channel, and we'll see everybody. We love you all. Thank you for everybody in chat. Thanks to all our moderators. We'll see everybody next week. Thanks.
Good night, everyone.
Good night.
I call you up in the middle of the night. Been bothered by dreams, ain't feeling alright. You give me comfort, say just give it some time. By the end of our talk, I'm feeling just fine. You and I will always know where we belong. This ain't no ordinary love we got going on. I pick you up in my 59 Ford. We head on down the road until we get bored. Just you and me and the sun and the wind. Get the We should be in doubt, and I pray they never can pull us apart. And I wait for the time when we'll be together every day. But I know